Chapter 598. Although northern Liang City had good defensive fortifications and there were many martial artists and rogue cultivators resting in the city, however, it paled in comparison to the scale of the beast tide outside. At present, there were no more than a few hundred cultivators in the city. On the other hand, there were many demonic beasts gathered outside the city. There were at least 1,000 of them, and most of them had powerful demonic energy fluctuations. Even the weakest of them had reached the spirit rank, which was comparable to the martial master realm. Apart from that, there was also a large group of high-level demonic beasts in the beast tide. They seemed to be unique to the heavenly demon's secret realm. Not only were they taller than the city walls of northern Liang City, but they were also more powerful than ordinary demonic beasts. Even spiritual rank human martial artists were no match for them. I wonder if these people can withstand the attack of the beast tide. There are pros and cons to this beast tide. As long as the heaven-rank demonic beasts don't appear, no one can stop me. Feiren retracted his gaze and looked at northern Liang City below. His eyes were deep. Just now, he had already made up his mind. He would make use of this beast tide to train his cultivation that he had just broken through. If northern Liang City could not be defended, he would find an opportunity to escape. Even if the demonic beasts outside chased after him, as long as they were not the heaven-rank demonic beasts that were comparable to martial kings, they would not be able to stop him. Damn, it's over. At the edge of the city walls, a rogue cultivator looked at the densely packed demonic beasts below and heard the roars of the demonic beasts circling around him with fear. His cultivation was only at level 2 martial spirit realm. Although he could deal with some spirit-rank demonic beasts and even earth-rank low-level demonic beasts, the city walls would be destroyed. A large number of demonic beasts would flood in with the beast tide. Even if he had wings, he would not be able to escape. He would definitely die. After all, the number of martial artists in the city was too different from the number of demonic beasts outside. If not for the fact that northern Liang City had some defensive fortifications and tall city walls, they would have become food for the demonic beasts in less than half a day. Strange, there is a beast tide in the daytime of the heavenly demon secret realm. How is this possible? On the other side of the city wall, a few cultivators clustered around a gray-robed, white-haired old man. The white-haired old man's face was solemn, and there was a trace of uncertainty on his aged face. The aura around him was powerful, and it seemed that his status was not low. The white-haired elder's name was Zhang Huban. He was the head of the Zhang clan, a grade 6 clan in the eastern continent. When the heavenly demon mystery plane opened this time, he led a few younger members of the Zhang clan into the heavenly demon mystery plane to search for opportunities. However, Zhang Huban and the others were rather unlucky. Not only did they not find many opportunities, but they were also attacked by a beast tide when they were resting at the assembly point in northern Liang City. Patriarch, what should we do? A martial artist from the Zhang family said in an uneasy tone. At the same time, he shrank his head and looked a little flustered. Just now, he had also observed the situation outside the city. It could no longer be described as optimistic. It was extremely urgent. The various exits of the assembly point in northern Liang City had been completely surrounded by a large number of magical beasts. Traces of magical beasts could be seen everywhere. In addition, it was not easy to fly out of northern Liang City. Most of the magical beasts surrounding northern Liang City were above the spirit rank. There were also many earth-rank magical beasts. Therefore, regardless of whether it was the sky or the ground, danger lurked everywhere. Right now, we can only fight our way out. Zhang Huban shook his head in response to the question of the Zhang clan's martial artist. At the same time, his skinny hands clenched tightly under his sleeves. His origin energy cultivation was at level 4 martial spirit realm. Most of the Zhang clan's martial artists around him were above the martial spirit realm. As long as they did not encounter any Earth-rank magical beasts or were surrounded by a large number of magical beasts, they would still have a chance to fight their way out of the encirclement. Look! Someone is rushing out of the city. Suddenly, just as the Zhang clan's martial artists were thinking of a countermeasure, a low exclamation came from the crowd. What? Zhang Huban and the other Zhang clan's martial artists behind him looked over when they heard the exclamation. At this critical moment of life and death, it was already too late for everyone to escape. Yet, someone dared to take the initiative to fight against the beast tide outside. This was no different from seeking death. Therefore, they also wanted to see who it was that dared to risk his life. Everyone looked over and finally stopped when their eyes fell on Fei Ren, who was dressed in a gray robe. A level 5 martial spirit realm martial artist dared to fight against the beast tide alone. On the other side of the city wall, Zhang Huban was also shocked when he saw Fei Ren slaughtering the beast tide like a god of death. He opened his mouth slightly and was speechless for a moment. A man fighting against a group of magical beasts. This scene was too shocking. Die! Wisps of colored glass fire gushed out from his palm. Fei Ren's face was cold. The next moment, he raised his hand and blasted a large number of magical beasts. Boom! Boom! Roar! The colored glass fire turned into a blazing sea of fire and spread out. In an instant, dozens of spirit-level magical beasts were burned to ashes. Not even a trace of bones or demon cores were left. Some earth-level magical beasts were also affected by the power of the colored glass fire. They screamed and retreated. When they looked at Fei Ren, there was a trace of fear in their eyes. Although Fei Ren's cultivation was only at level 5 martial spirit realm, his overall strength was not weaker than a level 9 martial spirit realm martial artist. He was comparable to an advanced earth-level magical beast. Overlord's sweep. With an angry roar, the power of the two overlords' magic tattoos was instantly released. In the next moment, two strange purple lines appeared on Fei Ren's face. At the same time, he lifted his leg and smashed out. His attack was like a tornado, landing in the middle of the dense beast horde. Boom! Rumble! A large number of magical beasts screamed and died. Then, they turned into cold beast corpses and were absorbed by Fei Ren's smelting immortal cauldron. As the number of magical beasts killed increased, Fei Ren's cultivation, which had just broken through, increased rapidly. At the same time, the barrier of his cultivation level showed signs of breaking through again. It was as if he had cheated. Just as Fei Ren was fighting with the magical beast army that was swarming towards northern Liang City, in the heavenly demon's secret realm, in front of a cliff, corpses were everywhere and blood flowed in all directions. Big brother, our harvest is not bad. Yi Jinglei took out a high-grade spirit ring from a warrior's corpse and threw it to Yi Yunfeng, who was not far away. In this trip to the heavenly demon's secret realm, other than looking for opportunities, they were also constantly killing and robbing. Along the way, including the corpses under their feet, they had killed at least 7 or 8 groups of warriors, including some disciples from the 5th-rank families and sects. Even so, these vitality stones are not enough. I need to kill a few more people so that my cultivation can break through to level 7 martial spirit realm. After checking the vitality stones in the spirit ring, Yi Yunfeng said coldly with a sinister look on his face. Big brother, don't worry. Even if you haven't broken through to level 7 martial spirit realm, your strength is more than enough to deal with the bunch of trash from the scorching sun sect. Yi Jinglei put away the weapon in his hand and laughed. Second brother, what's your plan? Hearing this, Yi Yunfeng raised his eyebrows. As the crown prince of the great Ming dynasty, although he was strong, he was not as good as the second prince, Yi Jinglei, in terms of scheming. I have a plan. I will definitely tear the bunch of trash from the Scorching Sun sect and that little bastard called Fei Ren into pieces. Yi Jinglei nodded and a cruel and vicious look appeared on his face. It was as if he had a plan in mind. Chapter 599. It's a pity that we don't have any information on them, Yi Yunfeng said as he stopped cultivating. He was now at the 6th level of the martial spirit realm and was close to breaking through the bottleneck. As long as he absorbed some mid-grade primordial stones, he would be able to break through and step into the 7th level of the martial spirit realm. His strength would increase greatly, and he might even be ranked on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Big brother, don't forget what I'm best at, Yi Jinglei said with a cold smile. In terms of cultivation, he might not be as good as those famous geniuses on the Hidden Dragon ranking. However, he was a wily old fox when it came to lust and scheming. Yi Yunfeng let out a soft exclamation of surprise. He knew his second brother very well. He would never do something that he wasn't confident in. Since Yi Jinglei wanted to settle the score with Fei Ren, he must have made sufficient preparations. That's right. Nodding his head, Yi Jinglei sinisterly said, according to our spies, that brat Feng Buhui seems to have appeared near the Stone City assembly point. As long as we capture that brat, we can use him as a hostage to force Fei Ren to appear. And that bitch Xiao Nico. If it wasn't for our Yi family's help, how could the World Chamber of Commerce become the #1 chamber of commerce in the Great Ming Empire? That bitch, I won't let her go either. A look of resentment appeared on his face as he clenched his fists. Not only did she reject his marriage proposal, she was also so close to Fei Ren. He couldn't accept it. In his opinion, Xiao Nico's actions were not only cheating on him, but also a provocation to the Yi family and the Great Ming Empire. It was intolerable. Second brother, it's not easy to find a 3-legged toad, but a 2-legged woman is easy. Let's deal with the Scorching Sun sect first. As for the World Chamber of Commerce, our Yi family can't fall out with them for now, Yi Yunfeng said in a deep voice as he sensed Yi Jinglei's anger. He seemed to be considering the big picture. Big brother, don't worry. I understand. Glancing at Yi Yunfeng beside him, Yi Jinglei restrained his expression. Clearly, he knew the benefits involved. After all, the World Chamber of Commerce was not small. Even if the two of them wanted to kill Xiao and I to vent their anger, the current emperor, Yi Aolong, would not agree. However, even though they couldn't kill her, they could use her as a hostage to force Fei Ren to show himself. Not long after, Yi Yunfeng and Yi Jinglei led the group of Yi family warriors and left the cliff. Outside Shurching, who are you? Feng Buhui's expression was solemn as he looked at the group of Yi family's martial artists who were dressed in martial attire. After cultivating in the Heavenly Beast Mystery Realm for half a month, his origin energy cultivation finally made a breakthrough and stepped into the 2nd level of the martial spirit realm. However, before he could rejoice for long, a group of martial artists of unknown origin charged out from all around him. Not only were these martial artists powerful, but they were also aggressive and seemed to be coming for him. So you're Feng Buhui from the Scorching Sun sect. I didn't expect you to be so weak. In the next moment, a disdainful voice sounded from the side. Then, Yi Yunfeng slowly walked out with a gloomy Yi Jinglei following behind him. Yi Yunfeng, Yi Jinglei, you're martial artists from the Yi family. When Feng Buhui saw the true face of the person who had come, his expression changed slightly. His expression was one of shock. The other party was the crown prince of the Great Ming dynasty and was very powerful. Beside him was Yi Jinglei, the second prince, and his origin energy cultivation had reached the 5th level of the martial spirit realm. Not to mention the group of Yi family warriors surrounding him. Even if he were to face any one of the two people in front of him, he wouldn't be a match for them. Your eyesight is not bad. Originally, we planned to deal with Fei Ren, but now you're out of luck. A mocking smile appeared on Yi Jinglei's face as he looked at Feng Buhui with a cold smile. It was as if Feng Buhui was a turtle in a jar with nowhere to run. Take him down. With a cold shout, Yi Yunfeng ordered as if he didn't want to waste his breath on Feng Buhui. In the next moment, the group of Yi family warriors swarmed out and captured Feng Buhui, who was at the second level of the martial spirit realm. Shua! Just as Feng Buhui was captured, Yi Jinglei appeared in front of him in a flash. At the same time, he raised his leg and kicked Feng Buhui's chest. Bang! Poochie! Accompanied by a muffled sound, half of Feng Buhui's chest caved in and blood soaked his robes. You! Suffering heavy injuries, Feng Buhui's eyes were filled with boundless rage. However, he was powerless to resist. The difference in strength between the two of them was too great. The Yi Jinglei in front of him was even stronger than the leader of the night gang, Yi Yu. Brat, this is only the interest. Soon, that little bastard Fei Ren will come down to accompany you. Glancing at the dying Feng Buhui, a cruel and venomous expression flashed across Yi Jinglei's face. Not only did he want to kill Fei Ren, he also wanted his friend to die in front of him. Only then would he be able to appease the anger in his heart. Second brother, there's still that girl, Xiao Nico. Beside him, Yi Yunfeng also stepped forward. This time, capturing Feng Buhui was clearly not enough. If they wanted to force Fei Ren to appear, they had to make a move on Xiao Nico. Big brother, don't worry. I've already sent people to find out the location of the Xiao family's team. With their strength, they can't stop us. This time, we'll definitely succeed. Kicking the heavily injured Feng Buhui to the side, Yi Jinglei nodded and said in a vicious tone. Not long after, Yi Jinglei, Yi Yunfeng, and the others did the same. Relying on their numbers and strength, they defeated the Xiao family's team in one fell swoop. At the same time, they took Xiao Nike hostage and brought her to a remote place called the Withered Tree Cliff outside the Sky Demon Secret Territory. Heavenly Demon Secret Territory, outside northern Liang City. Boom! Another punch blew up a few Earth-rank mid-rank demonic beasts. In the next moment, Fei Ren's body moved into the air and retreated to the city wall behind him. He seemed to be planning to take a break. Level 6 Martial Spirit Realm. Haha, the records of the Overlord of Western Chu is indeed powerful. Breaking through while killing enemies, this is a long-awaited feeling. Fei Ren's face was filled with joy. Coo, however, before he could rush out again, a white feathered bird circled above his head and let out a series of coo. It seemed to be some kind of demonic beast responsible for sending messages. It looked quite cute, but it had no fighting power. This is a letter? Glancing at the white feathered bird's left claw, Fei Ren raised his hand and circulated his yuan power, sucking one of the letters into his palm. When he opened the letter, Fei Ren's face froze and then he frowned. There was nothing on the letter except for 2 different-sized bloodstains and the 3 black words, Withered Tree Cliff. It revealed a sense of desolation. Boundless anger burst out of his eyes. In the next moment, Fei Ren clenched his fists. At the same time, his aura dropped to a freezing point. He was like a peerless killing god that had just awakened. Yi Clan's 2 bastards. I'll definitely destroy you this time. Chapter 600. Fei Ren was very familiar with the source of the 2 bloodstains on the letter. One of them was Feng Buhui, and the other was Xiao Nicole, who was close to him. Right now, the 2 of them had most likely been killed. As for who it was, Fei Ren had more or less guessed it. The only people who had a grudge against him were the Crown Prince of the Great Song Empire, Ao Chongkong, and the people of the Yi clan. During the fight for the Enlightenment platform on Sky Mountain, Ao Chongkong had already taken the initiative to leave with his people. Moreover, the other party did not know about his relationship with Xiao Nicole and Feng Buhui. Therefore, they could basically be excluded. Right now, the only people who could possibly make a move were the Yi clan members. I didn't go find trouble with you, but you actually dared to come to me. Then, none of you can leave. Revealing his killing intent, Fei Ren burned the letter with a wisp of glazed fire from his palm. At the same time, he leaped into the sky and flew towards the direction of the Withered Tree Cliff. Roar! Outside northern Liang City, looking at Fei Ren who suddenly escaped in the sky, the magical beasts below roared. However, none of them dared to stop him. It was as if they had been frightened by Fei Ren's terrifying strength in the previous battle. After all, in the previous battle, countless magical beasts had died under Fei Ren's hands. There were even quite a number of high Earth rank magical beasts. As for magical beasts below the Earth rank, needless to say, they did not even have the qualifications to be devoured by him. Sky Demon's secret realm, in front of the withered tree cliff. Yi Yunfeng and Yi Jinglei stood quietly. A group of Yi clan warriors were patrolling around them. In front of the two of them were two young men who were tied up. One of them was severely injured, while the other was an extraordinarily beautiful girl. The young woman was petite and graceful. Her hair was scattered over her shoulders. At this moment, her beautiful eyes were shooting out flames of anger. If looks could kill, Yi Yunfeng and Yi Jinglei would have been killed countless times by her. Yi Jinglei, you're still as shameless as before. And you, Yi Yunfeng, your Yi clan is a group of sinister scoundrels. Looking at Yi Jinglei, Xiao Nicole cursed angrily. Then, her delicate body struggled to twist. However, no matter how she struggled, it was useless. Not only did the other party seal her acupoints, but the rope that bound her was also not an ordinary one. It was an auxiliary spirit treasure made of some special material, which could restrict the movement and body of a martial artist. Villain? Looks like Miss Nicole has been quite angry lately. I wonder if your anger will subside when that Fei Ren arrives. Stepping forward, Yi Yunfeng took out a white jade folding fan from somewhere and gently waved it as he sneered. This time, his target wasn't Shawnee but Fei Ren. The other party was only a hostage. As long as he got rid of Fei Ren, Xiao Nicole would lose her value. Even if he let her go back to the Xiao family, Yi Yunfeng was not worried at all. After all, regardless of whether it was the Xiao family or the World Chamber of Commerce, they were no match for the Yi family. Fei Ren. Seeing the smug look on Yi Yunfeng's face, Xiao Nico's pretty face sank and became very ugly. Damn it, their target is Fei Ren originally. She was following the Xiao family team to train in the Sky Demon's secret realm while looking for opportunities. However, on the way, she was unexpectedly attacked by the Yi family. Yi Yunfeng seemed to have already known the Xiao family team's movements and location. His attacks were as fierce as fire, and he did not linger in the battle. His target was her. Now, Xiao Nicole finally understood that Yi Yunfeng and the others' target was not her, but Fei Ren. Big brother, don't waste your time with this bitch. Since she dared to reject my proposal, I'll let her have a taste of my power, Yi Jinglei interrupted with a sinister tone. Then, he took out a small bottle of dark blue liquid from his sleeve. It seemed to be some kind of medicinal liquid. Second brother, this girl can't be killed yet. Turning back, Yi Yunfeng spoke again, as if trying to persuade the other party to calm down. However, before he could finish his sentence, Yi Jinglei took a step forward and poured the medicine into Xiao Nico's mouth. Woo-woo! Although she struggled with all her might, her mouth was still filled with the blue liquid. Xiao Nicole's face was filled with shock and anger, and her beautiful eyes were shooting out endless murderous rage. Pay! Bastard! What did you give me? Xiao Nicole spat out another mouthful of saliva and angrily rebuked. What did you drink? Yin Yang lovemaking powder. Throwing the bottle to the side, Yi Jinglei coldly snorted, and a trace of lust appeared in his eyes. Yin Yang lovemaking powder. Hearing this, not only Xiao Nicole, but also the dying Feng Buhui and Yi Yunfeng, who were standing at the side, were stunned. This guy still can't get rid of his lecherous habit. Crossing his arms, Yi Yunfeng shook his head as he looked at the lecherous Yi Jinglei, and a helpless smile appeared on his face. He originally thought that Yi Jinglei would kill Xiao Nicole in his rage, but he did not expect Yi Jinglei's plan to be even more perverted. Not only did Yi Jinglei want to use Xiao Nicole to force Fei Ren to show himself, He also wanted to feed her medicine in front of everyone to satisfy his beast desires. That bastard just gave me yin-yang lovemaking powder. Her delicate body trembled, and in the next moment, a trace of uneasiness and panic appeared in Xiao Nicole's beautiful eyes. Yin-yang lovemaking powder was a type of aphrodisiac, and as its name suggested, after consumption, one would gradually lose their humanity and rationality, and their mind would be filled with primitive urges. The effect of the drug was very strong, and even a martial spirit realm expert could not resist the powerful effects of the yin-yang lovemaking powder. Therefore, she was very clear about the reputation of the yin-yang lovemaking powder. Although she still had a trace of rationality and clarity, after a while, the yin-yang lovemaking powder would completely take effect, and she would completely lose her rationality. At the same time, she would be at the mercy of others, and would even take the initiative to cater to them. It was very scary. "Bitch, today I'll let you taste my power. And that bastard called Feiren, he won't be able to escape either." Yi Jinglei looked fiercely at Xiao Nicole, who was at a loss of what to do. In the next moment, Yi Jinglei slowly undressed, and at the same time, a pair of pig trotters moved towards her delicate body. "You! What are you doing? Yi Jinglei, you bastard! Don't come over!" Facing Yi Jinglei's pair of pig trotters, Xiao Nicole was shocked and angry. Her beautiful eyes were filled with panic and helplessness, as if she was about to cry out in the next moment. At the same time, she struggled to twist her delicate body, intending to avoid Yi Jinglei's trotters and retreat. "Ha ha ha ha!" Yi Jinglei's arrogant laughter resounded throughout the entire withered tree cliff, and fell into everyone's ears. "Wait!" Suddenly, just as Yi Jinglei was about to enjoy the night, a man's voice came from the sky not far away. The tone was cold and full of killing intent. Chapter 601. The newcomer was dressed in a gray robe. His eyes were dark and deep, as if they contained stars. His tall figure stood upright, and at the same time, he exuded an extraordinary aura. It was Feiren. Feiren! Seeing the person's face, Yi Jinglei stopped what he was doing. His eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. This person was the thorn in his side that he wanted to get rid of. Whether it was the broken engagement with the Xiao family or the death of his trusted subordinate Yi Kuang, all of these were related to Feiren in front of him. Yi Jinglei's heart was filled with endless killing intent towards Feiren. "Little bastard, you're finally willing to show yourself." Yi Jinglei slowly put on his clothes and looked at Feiren, who was in the sky. Now that he had shown himself, a battle was inevitable. As for Xiao Nicole, who was already poisoned by the yin-yang lovemaking powder, he was not in a hurry to taste it. As long as he got rid of Feiren, he would have plenty of time to enjoy himself. In the sky. "My grandson is disobedient. As a grandfather, I have to teach him a lesson." Glancing at Yi Yunfeng and Yi Jinglei in front of the withered tree cliff, Feiren sneered. His tone was filled with disdain and ridicule. Although the cultivation of the two was not bad, one was at the 5th martial spirit realm, and the other was at the 6th martial spirit realm, and there was a group of Yi family warriors helping them. However, in his eyes they were still trash. With his current strength, anyone below the 7th martial spirit realm would not be able to take a punch from him. The power of the saint rank cultivation technique, record of the overlord of Western Chu, was just that overbearing. "You little bastard with a sharp tongue." At this moment, facing Feiren's ridicule, Yi Jinglei frowned. His face was filled with anger and he was about to attack. "Second brother, is this the Feiren you mentioned?" Suddenly, Yi Yunfeng stepped forward and stood in front of Yi Jinglei. Although Yi Jinglei had mentioned that Yi Jinglei was just a nobody at the 2nd martial spirit realm. However, there was a sense of unease in his heart. The Feiren in front of them was not as simple as they had imagined. "That's right, big brother. This guy is the Feiren who killed Yi Kuang. But don't worry, big brother. I only need less than the time for an incense stick to burn to wring this little bastard's head off. Seeing that Yi Yunfeng had stopped him, Yi Jinglei was a little surprised. His face darkened as he said, his gaze fixed on Fei Ren in the sky. Fei Ren, he came to save me? No, it's too dangerous here. He's no match for Yi Jinglei and Yi Yunfeng. In front of the cliff, Xiao Nico, who was tied up and unable to move, raised her head with difficulty. She looked up at Fei Ren in the sky, her beautiful eyes filled with surprise and worry. As for Feng Buhui, due to his severe injuries and the lack of treatment, he had already fainted. Who is that guy? I heard that he's called Fei Ren. He's from the Scorching Sun sect in the Eastern Sun region. He's the one who killed the second prince's confidant, Yi Kuang. What? So fierce. Captain Yi Kuang is at the third martial spirit realm. It can't be. A portion of the Yi family warriors were also doubtful of Fei Ren's strength. However, before they could think further, Yi Jinglei took the initiative to attack Fei Ren in the sky. Ghost Dust Pearl. Yi Jinglei shouted. The spiritual qi around his body was getting stronger and stronger. In a flash, it turned into countless balls of brown light and attacked Fei Ren's vital points. It was like a rainstorm, making it impossible for Fei Ren to dodge. All the blind spots were blocked. Rank 9 martial arts? Facing Yi Jinglei's attack, Fei Ren raised his eyebrows. As a direct descendant of a rank 5 family and the current second prince of the Great Ming dynasty, Yi Jinglei had a lot of trump cards. In addition, the Ghost Dust Pearl was a rare martial arts with a large area of effect. It was very powerful. However, Yi Jinglei's cultivation had broken through to the 6th martial spirit realm. Coupled with the unique power of the Overlord's record of Western Chu, Yi Jinglei was no match for him, even if he had an Earth-rank martial arts. Overlord's demonic mark. With a low roar from his throat, a strange purple pattern instantly climbed up his cheek. In the next moment, Fei Ren also threw out a punch, directly facing the countless brown light balls that were attacking him. His aura was like a rainbow, breaking all martial arts with one punch. Bang! Rumble! Before the countless brown balls of light could get close to Fei Ren, they were forced back by the terrifying fist and turned into nothingness. Swoosh! After defeating Yi Jinglei's attack with one punch, Fei Ren's figure disappeared. He appeared behind Yi Jinglei like a ghost and threw out another punch. Pucci! 6th martial spirit realm. How is this possible? Blood splattered and Yi Jinglei felt an unusual chill on his chest. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect that Yi Jinglei had broken through to the 6th martial spirit realm and was much stronger than him. Gotcha! Before he could finish speaking, Fei Ren retracted his fist in the next moment. At the same time, he forcefully twisted his opponent's neck. The second prince of the Great Ming dynasty, Yi Jinglei, was dead. Next, you guys. After dealing with Yi Jinglei, Fei Ren's gaze swept towards Yi Yunfeng and the Yi family's martial artists at the side of the Withered Tree Cliff. This time, other than Yi Jinglei, these people were also involved in the assassination of Feng Buhui and Xiao Nike. Anyone who touches the reverse scale of a dragon will die. Feng Buhui and Xiao Nike were his friends. Now that one of them was dead and the other was almost defiled, he would not let them go. Sir, I am the Crown Prince of the Great Ming dynasty. Let's talk. Seeing Fei Ren's figure continuously approaching, Yi Yunfeng immediately panicked. His body involuntarily retreated a few steps as he said in an uneasy tone. In his opinion, even if Yi Jinglei was not Fei Ren's match, he would at least be able to fight him to a standstill. However, he did not expect that Yi Jinglei would be killed by Fei Ren in one punch without any resistance. Die. Ignoring Yi Jinglei's pleas for mercy, Fei Ren was determined to kill him. Another strange purple pattern appeared on his face, and at the same time, he kicked Yi Jinglei's chest. Bang! Pft! Yi Yunfeng spat out a mouthful of blood as his chest was heavily injured. At the same time, his body retreated like a kite with a broken string. His entire chest was caved in and his bones were broken. Blood flowed nonstop. With such a miserable appearance, even if he was not dead, he would be crippled. Without giving Yi Yunfeng a chance to beg for mercy, Fei Ren appeared in front of Yi Yunfeng in a flash. At the same time, he raised his hand and crushed Yi Yunfeng's skull. Red and white matter splattered all over the ground, completely killing him. As for the Yi family martial artists near the cliff, they did not escape from Fei Ren's killer either. They all fell to the ground and died. No one left alive. In front of the withered tree cliff, blood flowed like a river. The Yi family team was wiped out. A bunch of trash. Other than Yi Aolong, the rest of the Yi family are only SOSO. Pursing his lips, Fei Ren's face was cold. At this moment, besides the unconscious Feng Buhui and Xiao Nico, who was poisoned by the yin-yang lovemaking powder and whose beautiful face was slightly flushed red, only Chen Shi remained standing all alone like a lone ranger in the wind. Chapter 602. The geniuses from the Yi clan who had entered the Sky Monster's secret realm had all been killed by him. Fei Ren didn't waste any of their corpses. Swoosh! He raised his hand and summoned the immortal refining divine cauldron. In the next moment, a large amount of devouring power erupted from the divine cauldron. Then, it devoured all the remaining life essence of the surrounding Yi family warriors and turned it into pure origin energy. As strands of pure Yuan force flowed into his dantian, Fei Ren's Yuan force aura increased a little, but he didn't make a breakthrough. After all, Yi Yunfeng and Yi Jinglei's cultivation was only SOSO. Even if he absorbed the remaining life essence of the two corpses, it would only increase his cultivation by a little. Unless he killed a genius like Ao Chongkong on the hidden dragon roll, he would have a chance to make a breakthrough and step into the 7th level of the martial spirit realm. Don't be greedy, don't be greedy. Although he didn't make another breakthrough, Fei Ren was already satisfied. Motherf ** Ker. These Yi clan's bastards are really ruthless. They were so unscrupulous in order to lure me out. Fei Ren's face was grave as he leaped to Feng Buhui's side. Feng Buhui's injuries were very serious. His entire chest was caved in and stained with blood. To put it bluntly, Feng Buhui was already half a step into the gates of hell. Luckily, I'm here to save your life. Fei Ren took out a grade 7 elixir pill from his spiritual ring. In the next moment, he pried open Feng Buhui's mouth and sent the elixir pill into the unconscious Feng Buhui's mouth. At the same time, he circulated the Overlord's record of Western Chu and pressed his hand on Feng Buhui's chest. Using the Overlord's record of Western Chu to condense the Overlord's demonic rune not only increased a warrior's strength and was used to kill enemies, but it also had healing effects. It could quickly repair a warrior's damaged bones and meridians. However, this was a test of a warrior's mental energy attainment. Fortunately, Fei Ren's mental energy had already broken through to the 7th level of the profound martial realm, so it wasn't too difficult for him to treat Feng Buhui's injuries. And, just as Fei Ren was about to save Feng Buhui, a soft and gentle voice of a woman sounded from the side. There was no lack of charm in it. Fei Ren, I. His vision gradually blurred. Xiao Nicole's beautiful face was flushed red as she struggled. At this moment, her red lips were emitting a fragrant scent. She seemed to have reached her limit. Her beautiful eyes were filled with desire. After all, Yi Jinglei had forced an entire bottle of yin-yang lovemaking powder down her throat. The effect of the yin-yang lovemaking powder was extremely powerful, and the reputation of this medicine was not unfounded. Right now, it was already very rare for Xiao and I to be able to hold on until now without completely losing her mind. Damn! So exciting! Fei Ren felt his nose turn red as he looked at the seductive Xiao Nicole in front of him. Her clothes were spread open, revealing her fair neck and thighs. In the past, Xiao Nico had always been cold and elegant in his eyes. Now she was like a little kitten in heat. It was hard to imagine. The effect of the yin-yang lovemaking powder was truly insane, Fei Ren thought in his heart. Then, he circulated the yuan power in his dantian and forcefully suppressed the wisp of evil fire that was gradually surging up in his lower abdomen. No, I can't take advantage of her. Although Xiao Nicole was extremely beautiful and was a complete beauty, she was just a simple friend to him. How could he think of such dirty things? Moreover, a forceful melon would not be sweet. Miss Xiao, are you all right? After removing the restraints on Xiao Nicole, Fei Ren swallowed his saliva and tried his best to look at her body. Swoosh! However, Xiao Nicole pounced on him in the next moment. Then, she opened her red lips slightly and blocked his mouth. Feeling the softness on his mouth, Fei Ren's body trembled. This was his first kiss. However, he did not know that this was also Xiao Nicole's first kiss. She had only temporarily lost her mind due to the effects of the drug. The effect of the yin-yang lovemaking powder is actually so domineering. Just as Fei Ren was about to push her away, his expression changed slightly. At the same time, he felt a wave of heat and evil fire surging up from all over his body. The most ridiculous thing was that even if he used the records of the tyrant of Western Chu, he could not suppress this evil fire. There was still a trace of the yin-yang lovemaking powder left in Xiao Nicole's mouth. With this kiss, the careless Fei Ren also fell for it. It's over, something's going to happen. This was Fei Ren's last thought before he lost his mind. In front of the withered tree cliff, dragons and phoenixes danced together. After an unknown amount of time, the madness finally stopped. Fei Ren and Xiao Nicole also regained their senses. This can't be right? Looking at the mess around him, Fei Ren stretched out his hand to support his head. His expression was a little awkward. At the side, Xiao Nicole clenched her teeth. At this moment, her hands were tightly covering her chest. Her beautiful face was flushed red and filled with disbelief. It was as if she could not believe what just happened was real. What did we do? After being silent for a long time, Fei Ren finally could not help but ask in a nervous tone. A voice as soft as a mosquito sounded in his ear. Huff, although he already knew the result, Fei Ren still let out a sigh with a helpless expression. Damn Fei Ren! What's with your expression? Seeing Fei Ren's expression as if he had been greatly wronged, Xiao Nicole frowned and said angrily. After all, this was her first time. Fei Ren had clearly taken advantage of her, but he made it seem as if he had taken advantage of her. Naturally, she could not tolerate this. Don't be angry, Miss Xiao, don't worry. I'll take responsibility for you in the future. This is a man's promise. After another dry cough, Fei Ren calmed down and hurriedly explained. Right now, since it had already happened, there was no turning back. Xiao Nicole had become his woman, so he naturally had to protect her and not let anyone harm her. I don't need you to take responsibility. You think too highly of yourself. Seeing Fei Ren make such a promise with a serious expression, Xiao Nicole's pretty face blushed slightly. She then lightly harumphed, tidied her clothes, and turned her head away. This idiot looks like we're really fated to be together. Although she did not seem to care about Fei Ren's promise, Xiao Nicole felt a sense of relief in her heart. At the same time, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. At this moment the unconscious Feng Buhui slowly woke up. Are you all right? Seeing that Feng Buhui had finally woken up, Fei Ren took the opportunity to get away and went over to him. Although he and Xiao Nicole had slept together, it had happened too suddenly, and the two of them had not gotten used to the change. The atmosphere between them was quite awkward. Luckily, I didn't die. Brother Fei, I didn't think I would owe you my life again. Looking around, Feng Buhui shook his head and revealed a bitter smile. At this moment, the ground in front of the withered tree cliff was littered with the corpses of the Yi family warriors. Even Yi Yunfeng and Yi Jinglei were dead. He naturally understood that he had been saved by Fei Ren again. Chapter 603. You're welcome. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have been attacked by Yi Jinglei and the rest. These guys were targeting me from the start. Fei Ren patted Feng Buhui's shoulder calmly, indicating that he was fine. Now that Yi Jinglei and the rest were dead, the threat they faced was gone. Even though killing Yi Jinglei and the rest of the Yi clan meant that he had completely fallen out with the Yi clan, he was not afraid. The Yi clan was just a rank 5 clan. If he was given more time to grow, even a rank 5 clan would be trampled under his feet. With the Divine Cauldron and the Saint rank cultivation technique, records of the Overlord of Western Chu, Fei Ren was confident. Brother Fei, I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect your strength to have grown to such a level. Looks like, Brother Fei, you've obtained a lot of opportunities in the Heavenly Monster secret realm. Looking at Fei Ren, Feng Buhui, who had just recovered from his injuries, coughed a few times. His face was filled with mixed feelings and endless emotions. Back in the Scorching Sun sect, Feng Buhui was just a small outer disciple with average strength and no reputation. Now that things had changed, Fei Ren's strength had grown beyond his imagination. It was even more exaggerated than Gao Yunshin's. His cultivation was only at level 2 martial spirit realm. On the other hand, Fei Ren's strength had skyrocketed to level 6 martial spirit realm. Lucky. What do you plan to do next? Fei Ren wasn't complacent about Feng Buhui's praise. He smiled faintly. Speaking of which, he hadn't obtained any opportunities in the past few days in the Heavenly Monster secret realm. His current cultivation had been raised by killing people and hunting demonic beasts, devouring their life essence. If one had to talk about fated chances, there was nothing else other than the record of the Overlord of Western Chu, which he had comprehended on the Heavenly Mountains meditation platform. Nothing else. I'm just waiting for the Heavenly Monster secret realm to close and then leave. The closer I get to the depths of the Heavenly Monster secret realm, the stronger the demonic beasts and martial artists. With my current strength, I'm just courting death, let alone looking for opportunities. With a sigh, Feng Buhui's expression became somewhat carefree as he spoke in relief. After experiencing 2 life and death crises, he finally understood the gap between himself and Fei Ren and the others. Now, he would be satisfied as long as he could find some high-grade herbs and spirit fruits in the Sky Fei mystic realm. As for the improvement of his cultivation, it was all up to fate. Preserving his life was the most important thing. All right. Hearing this, Fei Ren nodded his head. Since the other party had already made up his mind, he wouldn't ask any more questions. Not long after, Feng Buhui left the withered tree cliff. Xiao Nicole also glanced at Fei Ren with a complicated expression before turning to leave. Miss Xiao, you're leaving just like that? I'm really not taking advantage of you this time. Fei Ren's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Xiao Nicole. His expression was helpless. She seemed to still be angry at him for what had happened before. Did I say I was blaming you? Fortunately, Fei Ren heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately what? I didn't say I didn't blame you. Frowning, Xiao Nicole crossed her arms in front of her chest, and a hint of anger appeared on her face. Was he blaming her or not? Fei Ren revealed a bitter smile. He really didn't understand women's thoughts, and he also didn't understand how quickly a woman could change her mind. After the Sky Fei mystic realm closes, I'll return to the Xiao family. If you don't come and propose marriage to my father, I won't forgive you. In the end, I'll wait for you at the Xiao family. After glaring at Fei Ren once more, Xiao Nicole's tone suddenly softened. She then blushed slightly, pursed her lips, and quickly left the place. Watching Xiao Nicole's figure disappear into the distance, Fei Ren shook his head and sighed. Women are truly incomprehensible creatures. At this point, no matter how stupid he was, he knew that Xiao Nicole had already accepted him in her heart. Although this was a bit of an accident, Xiao Nicole had become his woman, so Fei Ren would naturally take it seriously. In front of the withered tree cliff another 2 hours later, Fei Ren was sitting cross-legged on the ground, cultivating. He didn't seem to be in a hurry to leave this place. In the previous battle, as well as the battle with the magical beasts outside northern Liang City, the 5 Overlord Mageweds stored in his body had all been used up. Now, in order to fight against stronger enemies, he naturally had to condense more Overlord Mageweds in case of emergencies. Preparing for a rainy day was the best strategy. After a while, Fei Ren also condensed 7 Overlord Mageweds in his Dantian. As his cultivation base continued to increase, the number of Overlord Mageweds he could condense also increased. It increased from 5 to 7. Other than that, the Overlord Mageweds could be stacked infinitely, and it could even be added to martial arts, making the Overlord Mageweth even more powerful. 7 Overlord Mageweds. Even if I meet Ao Chongkong from the Great Song Empire again, I won't end up in such a sorry state like before. Thinking so, Fei Ren exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Although his cultivation base was only at level 6 martial spirit realm, he didn't have much of an advantage over the geniuses on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. However, compared to when he was at the Heaven Mountains Enlightenment platform, his strength had increased by more than a few times. Just as Fei Ren was about to leave the withered tree cliff, "Ha ha ha ha, kid, I've finally found you." Suddenly, an arrogant laughter came from the sky. In the next moment, a tall young man in a python robe descended from the sky and landed steadily in front of the withered tree cliff. There was a trace of mockery and a sneer on his handsome face. Facing the young man in the python robe who suddenly appeared halfway, Fei Ren's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the other party. Ao Chongkong. When he saw the person's face clearly, Fei Ren's face suddenly turned solemn. The person who came was none other than the Crown Prince of the Great Song Empire, Ao Chongkong, who had a conflict with him previously and almost killed him. Speak of the devil and he will appear, secretly mobilizing the Dantian's origin energy. Fei Ren's face turned solemn. Compared to before, his strength had increased by a lot. However, Ao Chongkong in front of him had also improved rapidly. His origin energy cultivation base had already stepped into the half-step Martial King realm. His body was surrounded by an almost tangible murderous aura, which made people afraid to approach him. It seemed that he was only a step away from the real Martial King realm. Half-step Martial King. It seems that this guy has obtained a lot of opportunities before. Otherwise, he would have had the chance to kill me and Gao Yunshan the last time on Heaven Mountain. Noticing that Ao Chongkong's strength had increased by quite a bit, Fei Ren secretly praised himself in his heart. At the same time, he slightly understood why Ao Chongkong had suddenly given up on chasing after him and Gao Yunshan and left in a hurry. It was definitely related to an opportunity. Kid, I'm deeply regretful that I couldn't kill you the last time. This time, you won't be able to escape. The dignity of the Great Song Empire cannot be violated. Ao Chongkong glanced at Fei Ren, whose face was full of vigilance, and the corners of his mouth rose, revealing a sinister smile. Last time on Heaven Mountain, in order to obtain the Martial King liquid to break through his cultivation base, he let the other party and Gao Yunshan go. However, this time, he wouldn't let Fei Ren go. He was going to eliminate Fei Ren and completely obliterate him. Chapter 604. Fei Ren's heart skipped a beat when he sensed the endless killing intent from Ao Chongkong's body. A LV6 Martial Spirit Realm Cultivator against a half-step Martial King. With such a huge gap between their realms, it was almost impossible to win. However, he could not lose this battle. So what if you're the Crown Prince of the Great Song Empire? Anyone who dares to stop me will die. With a roar in his heart, Fei Ren's figure shot out toward Ao Changkong. At the same time, he blasted out a purple Yuanli ribbon. Strike first and gain the upper hand. At the same time, he also wanted to test his opponent's strength. Good timing. Seeing Fei Ren moving toward him, Ao Changkong's face turned cold. He also stretched out his left hand and punched toward his opponent's chest. Boom! A strong wind whistled. Just as the fist mixed with majestic Yuan power was about to hit Fei Ren's chest, countless colored glass flames swept out and immediately blocked Ao Changkong's fist. The fierce and violent flames also forced Ao Changkong's figure to retreat at the same time. Bang! After forcing back Ao Changkong's attack, Fei Ren's attack also arrived in the next moment. The purple Yuan power swept heavily onto Ao Changkong's shoulder, and like a heavy hammer falling onto the ground, it let out a muffled bang. However, Ao Changkong's body was still as motionless as the 5 great mountains. He was still standing in the same place. This bastard is really not that easy to deal with. Seeing that his attack was ineffective against Ao Changkong, Fei Ren was not surprised. He stepped lightly on the ground and fell back again. Your strength is not bad, but it's far from enough. Before Fei Ren could come back to his senses, Ao Changkong's faint voice slowly sounded in his ears. Then, an afterimage streaked across the sky. Ao Changkong's fist attack came again. Not good. With a thump in his heart, Fei Ren immediately activated his Yuanli defense. At the same time, he released an Overlord demonic rune. A strange purple pattern appeared on his cheek. Ao Changkong's cultivation was at half-step martial king realm. Even if it was just a casual punch, it would be difficult for ordinary warriors to resist. Although his Yuanli cultivation had broken through to LV6 martial spirit realm, it was obviously impossible for him to easily defeat Ao Changkong. Bang! Crack! Ao Changkong's fist and protective origin energy collided fiercely. In the next moment, the crisp sound of glass shattering rang out. The protective origin energy was instantly destroyed, and the remaining power of Ao Changkong's attack didn't diminish. It directly smashed towards Fei Ren's vital dantian. The dantian was one of a martial artist's life gate. Once the dantian was destroyed, one's cultivation and strength would be crippled. Its importance could be imagined. Boom! With a long roar, the power of the Overlord's Mageweth was completely unleashed. Fei Ren's left hand was also covered in a layer of purple Yuan power. Like a general's armor, it instantly met the opponent's fist. Then, he clenched his 5 fingers and swung them outwards, sending the opponent's figure flying. On the other side of the withered tree cliff, what a powerful force! Is this an earth rank technique? No, a heaven tier cultivation technique? After being sent flying by Fei Ren's attack, Ao Changkong retreated a few steps before he managed to stop himself. A trace of surprise appeared on his handsome face. He had used close to 80% of his strength in that punch, but the opponent could block it and even force him to retreat. It was enough to show that Fei Ren's cultivation technique was definitely not ordinary. The power of one Overlord's Mageweth barely blocked his attack. Ao Changkong is actually so powerful, as expected of the Crown Prince of the Great Song Empire. This is going to be troublesome. The purple lines on his cheeks gradually dissipated. Fei Ren exhaled heavily with a heavy heart. After consuming one Overlord's Mageweth, there were only 6 left in his dantian. At present, whether it was the glass fire or ordinary martial arts, they couldn't do anything to the opponent. Purely in terms of Yuan power, he wasn't Ao Changkong's opponent. The gap between their realms was huge. Only by relying on the power of the Overlord's Mageweth could he contend with the opponent. Fei Ren was very clear in his heart. If the power of the 6 Overlords Mageweth in his body was completely exhausted, and he still couldn't finish off Ao Changkong in front of him, then he would definitely die. There was no chance of winning. So what if it's this move? Collecting his thoughts, the corner of Ao Changkong's mouth revealed a trace of a sneer. At the same time, he circulated his yuan power to form a seal with his hands, and his eyes were ruthless. Although Fei Ren blocked his punch, the battle had just begun, and he hadn't used his full strength yet. Mixed element unity chi. Suppress. With a roar, Ao Changkong blasted out another palm. An incomparably huge yuan power pyramid appeared out of thin air. It was engraved with a large number of Tai Chi 8 trigrams. At the same time, it emitted a terrifying aura, as if it was going to suppress the entire world. This move again, looking at the incomparably huge yuan power pyramid in the sky, Fei Ren's eyelids also twitched slightly. Previously on Sky Mountain, he was defeated by this move. The power of this martial art had already reached the Earth grade, far surpassing the 9th grade martial arts. Thunder Fire Talisman. Explode. The spirit ring on his finger flashed white. Just as the yuan power pyramid was about to suppress him, Fei Ren took out 2 talismans from it. Then, he poured his yuan power into them, releasing 2 waves of violent energy entwined with the power of thunder and fire. These 2 Thunder Fire Talismans were previously given to him by Shao Nike as a thank you gift. Although the grade was only high, its power was not weak. It was enough to withstand a full blow from a level 8 martial spirit realm expert. At the moment, Fei Ren did not expect to rely on the power of these 2 Thunder Fire Talismans to fight against Ao Changkong. He just needed to buy some time. High-grade talismans? To save your life, you even took out such a thing. Seeing Fei Ren's actions, Ao Changkong's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. Obviously, just 2 high-grade talismans were not enough to resist his Earth-grade martial art, mixed element unity chi. Boom. Rumble. The power of the Thunder Fire Talisman and the Yuan Power Pyramid collided fiercely. In the end, it completely exploded, and a violent and terrifying shockwave spread out. For a moment, the entire withered tree cliff was in a mess. The ground trembled and dust clouds were everywhere. After an unknown amount of time, the dust clouds finally dispersed, and Fei Ren's figure appeared again. However, he was in a sorry state. His robe was tattered, like pieces of rags hanging on his body. At the same time, there were several terrifying wounds on his chest and left leg. There were bloodstains, and it seemed that he had suffered serious injuries. Motherf *Ker, this grandson has become stronger. Reaching out to wipe off the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth, Fei Ren's eyes were solemn. The warm-up is over. Next, it's time to send you on your way. Rakshasa bloodline. Looking at Fei Ren, who was in a sorry state, Ao Changkong also reached out to tear off the robe on his upper body. Then, with a roar, his eyes suddenly turned red. 2 pairs of horns appeared on his head, and the veins on his body were exposed. At the same time, his aura changed greatly, as if he was an evil spirit from hell. Bloodline power? Seeing that Ao Changkong's strength had increased greatly again, and at the same time, his appearance had changed greatly. Fei Ren's face was shocked, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. The other party had used his bloodline power, and it seemed to be of a high grade, far superior to the ordinary bloodline power. That aura was comparable to the innate tyrant body. Chapter 605. Ao Changkong's bloodline was called Luosha, and it was of an extraordinary grade. Only the direct descendants of the Great Song Empire's royal family had a chance of awakening this bloodline. As the current crown prince of the Great Song Empire, Ao Changkong's talent and comprehension were top-notch. It was not surprising that he could awaken the Luosha bloodline. After all, his opponent was in the top 50 of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. If he was defeated so easily, then the geniuses on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard would be trash. Swoosh! In the next moment, Ao Changkong, who had activated the Luosha bloodline, launched another attack. His entire body was like a wild beast as he charged toward Fei Ren. So fast. Fei Ren's heart skipped a beat. In just a breath's time, Ao Changkong was right in front of him. Even his afterimage could not be seen. After activating the Luosha bloodline, Ao Changkong's strength, reaction, and speed had increased by several times. He was infinitely close to a true martial king expert. Die! Ao Changkong's 5 fingers bent into sharp claws as he swiped toward Fei Ren's neck. His face was grim. Although his claw was not a martial art, it was powerful enough to crush a martial artist below LV9 martial spirit realm, not to mention the most fragile part of the human body, the neck. Bang! In the face of life and death, Fei Ren also channeled origin power in his hands and protected his chest, blocking the claw. Pfft! However, as a huge force came from his arm, he spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. The gap between the half-step Martial King realm and LV6 Martial Spirit realm was too big. If he did not cultivate the sacred rank cultivation technique, record of the Overlord of Western Chu, and his physique was far stronger than ordinary people, he would not have been able to block 3 of Ao Changkong's attacks. It's not over yet. Ao Changkong's cold voice rang in Fei Ren's ears again. Then, Fei Ren felt as if his arms had been hit by a heavy blow, as if he had been electrocuted. In the next moment, he was sent flying by a kick from Ao Changkong. His figure crashed into the dense forest not far away in a sorry state. Fei Ren, how powerful is my Luosha bloodline? Feel despair. Another kick sent Fei Ren flying. Ao Changkong looked up to the sky and laughed, as if victory was within his grasp. His face was filled with a crazy and cruel smile. On the other side of the forest, Fei Ren struggled to get up from the ground. His expression was ugly. After several exchanges, he was always at a disadvantage, and he could not see the slightest hope of winning. The Rakshasa bloodline was a high-ranked bloodline that only the direct descendants of the Great Song Empire's royal family possessed. Although one's appearance would become somewhat ugly after using the power of the bloodline, it was still a terrifying increase in the overall strength of a cultivator. Before Ao Changkong unleashed his Rakshasa bloodline, Fei Ren could still barely contend with him. But now, he couldn't. I can only use the Overlord Mageweth now. Holy sh*t, I'm going all out. Fei Ren took another look at Ao Changkong, who had an imposing aura, and hardened his heart. He instantly released all the power of the 6 Overlord Mageweths. This battle was a matter of life and death. He could not afford to be careless and underestimate the enemy. Therefore, he did not dare to hold back. He immediately used up all the Overlord Mageweth in his Dantian, hoping to finish off Ao Changkong in one move. 6 strange purple lines appeared one after another. 4 of them were on his cheeks, and 2 were wrapped around his arms. It was very magical. At the same time, with the appearance of the Overlord Mageweth, wisps of purple gas appeared out of thin air. They then circled around Fei Ren's body, as if purple gas came from the east. In front of the withered tree cliff, this kid still has a trump card, seeing the purple gas circling around Fei Ren's body, and at the same time, his origin power aura had increased several times. Ao Changkong narrowed his eyes. He seemed to have expected this. Go! The power of the 6 Overlord Mageweth was raised to the limit, but Fei Ren did not make a move immediately. Instead, his right hand gently touched the spirit ring on his finger. Crack! A ray of light flashed, and in the next moment, a tall skeleton puppet appeared out of thin air. At this moment, its eyes were empty and emotionless. At the same time, both of its hands were holding sharp bone blades. It was the puppet Whitey, who had not appeared for a long time. After this period of cultivation, the puppet Whitey's strength had grown to level 4 martial spirit realm. However, as Fei Ren's opponents became stronger and stronger, the puppet Whitey's role became less and less. It was even a little weak. As long as I can find a flaw, I will have a chance to kill him. With a thought, under Fei Ren's command, the puppet Whitey's body shot out, waving its sharp bone blades towards Ao Changkong. "You think you can stop me with these trashy puppets? What a joke!" In the face of Little White's attack, Ao Changkong was first stunned, then he was instantly enraged. He originally thought that Fei Ren would do it himself, but he did not expect that the other party would only send a level 4 martial spirit realm puppet. He stood there and watched the show. This was undoubtedly a serious provocation, and even looked down on him. Therefore, Ao Changkong's killing intent towards Fei Ren grew. "Get lost." His figure disappeared again, and in the next moment, Ao Changkong appeared behind the puppet Whitey. At the same time, he blasted out a palm in the air. A large amount of origin energy mixed with the palm force was shocking. Boom! Kacha, kacha, the palm heavily imprinted on the puppet Whitey's skeleton. In the next moment, a majestic origin energy exploded, completely destroying the puppet Whitey's skeleton and shattering it into pieces. Under Ao Changkong's full force palm, the puppet Whitey, which had followed Fei Ren for many years, was reduced to a pile of wreckage. Good chance. The moment Ao Changkong blasted the puppet Whitey, Fei Ren's figure finally moved, turning into an afterimage and disappearing. Overlord's sweep. His left leg bent slightly, then suddenly bounced back, sweeping towards Ao Changkong's lower body. Fei Ren's eyes flashed with killing intent. Not only did he use all his strength in this kick, but he also used the power of the 6 Overlord's demonic runes. The power was enough to kill a half-step martial king. What? Sensing the approaching aura of death, Ao Changkong's face also changed slightly. He never expected Fei Ren to be able to burst out such a powerful force in an instant. Bang! Rumble! He hurriedly circulated the origin energy in his body, and at the same time, put his hands in front of him to protect himself. He intended to block Fei Ren's full-force attack. However, Ao Changkong underestimated the power of his opponent's kick. In the next moment, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and at the same time, his whole body flew backward, smashing heavily on the ground. He looked quite miserable. At the same time, the Rakshasa bloodline power in his body gradually dissipated, and finally returned to normal. It seemed that it had also been kicked away by Fei Ren. Bastard! You are the first person who can force me into such a situation. Ao Changkong struggled to get up, and reached out to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. Ao Changkong's face was gloomy, and at the same time, his hands formed a seal again. In the next moment, a large amount of white flames was released, mixed with wisps of majestic Taoist aura, making it difficult for people to approach. Taoist power? Seeing a large amount of white flames suddenly emerge from Ao Changkong's body, Fei Ren's eyes narrowed. His opponent had comprehended the fire Taoist power, and his attainment was not low, at least at the complete stage. Chapter 606. Ao Changkong's Flame Dao Technique, which was at the perfection stage, coupled with Ao Changkong's half-step to martial king realm cultivation, was enough to kill him with a casual blow. Fei Ren knew this very well. Even the power of the 6 Overlord demonic runes can't kill this guy. I can only use the divine refining cauldron. Fei Ren's face was grave as he faced Ao Changkong, who had used all his trump cards and even used the Flame Dao technique. After this fierce battle, he had little origin energy left in his body, and the 6 Overlord demonic runes that he had painstakingly condensed were all used up. Even so, he had not been able to kill Ao Changkong, and had only seriously injured him. It was enough to show that Ao Changkong, the crown prince of the Great Song Empire, had extraordinary strength. After all, the Great Song Empire's foundation was no weaker than a third-grade force, and was on par with the Clear Sea sect that Tang Shui had mentioned. Cough, cough, cough. Thinking of this, Fei Ren coughed up a few more mouthfuls of blood, and at the same time, he staggered a little. Although his origin energy cultivation had reached LV6 martial spirit realm, The record of the Overlord of Western Chu was, after all, a divine-grade cultivation skill. Moreover, using the power of the 6 Overlord demonic runes at once put a heavy burden on his body. Currently, this was his limit. If he used the power of the Overlord demonic runes again, he would probably be the first to explode and die. After all, the core of the record of the Overlord of Western Chu was a physique cultivation skill, which was related to the strength of the martial artist. If the martial artist's strength and physique were not up to standard, he would not be able to support such a powerful force, let alone kill the enemy. It's over. As if he did not want to give Fei Ren a chance to catch his breath, the white flames around him gradually rose to the peak. In the next moment, Ao Changkong ignored the injuries on his body and raised his hand to strike at his opponent's heart meridian. It was mixed with the endless power of the Flame Dao technique. In Ao Changkong's opinion, even if Fei Ren could dodge his palm, he would not be able to dodge the remaining power of the Flame Dao technique. After all, up until now, Ao Changkong had also reached his limit, and his injuries were more serious than his. Fei Ren, no matter how powerful you are still a mere 6th-level martial spirit realm cultivator. You can't defeat me. It was as if Ao Changkong could already see victory in front of him. His opponent would die tragically under his palm. A hint of madness and laughter appeared on his pale face. Bang! Ao Changkong's palm heavily imprinted on Fei Ren's chest, but it did not affect his heart meridian. Fei Ren actually moved his body, barely avoiding a vital point. In the next moment, a large amount of white flames swept out, engulfing Fei Ren's figure. It was as if he had turned into a burning man. Unless one encountered a Water Dao art at the Perfection realm or encountered a Water Dao art at the same cultivation level, or if the difference in strength between the two sides was too great, otherwise, it was very difficult to resist. If it was light, one would be injured by the might of the Dao art of flames and be reduced to a cripple. If it was heavy, one would die on the spot without even leaving behind a corpse. This is the result of offending this prince. After retreating and seeing Fei Ren's figure being engulfed by the white flames, Ao Changkong's mouth also hung a sneer. Although he was already exhausted in this battle, and had used all his trump cards in order to deal with Fei Ren, the outcome was still as he wished. Fei Ren was already dead without a doubt. It's not over yet. Devouring power. Just as Ao Changkong heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, a deep and cold voice sounded out once again, accompanied by a majestic devouring power. The person who came was none other than Fei Ren. What? This bastard is not dead yet. The sudden change caused Ao Changkong's expression to be equally shocked. He never expected that Fei Ren would not be completely killed after taking a direct hit from his palm and the power of the Perfection Realm Flame Dao art. Bang! Before Ao Changkong could react, Fei Ren's hands fiercely landed on the other party's shoulders. In an instant, a large amount of devouring power gushed out from the divine, immortal refining cauldron deep within his dantian. Then, it broke through Ao Changkong's protective origin power and surged into his extraordinary 8 meridians and dantian. The divine, immortal refining cauldron was his final trump card. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Fei Ren would not use it easily. Now, in order to get rid of Ao Changkong, this great threat, he could only use the divine immortal refining cauldron's devouring power. How is this possible? Such a powerful devouring power. What kind of spiritual treasure is this? When he sensed that the little origin power and even life force in his body had been forcibly extracted by Fei Ren and then devoured, Ao Changkong's expression was filled with shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief. As the crown prince of the great Song Empire, his horizons were broad. He knew very well that even a venerable grade spiritual treasure could not possess such a powerful force, let alone directly extracting a martial artist's life force. Could it be that he had a divine grade spiritual treasure? Just as this horrifying thought appeared in his mind, in the next moment, Ao Changkong's chest was punched by Feiren again. His body flew backward and he kept vomiting blood. All of his origin power and a part of his life force had been extracted by Fei Ren's devouring power. Ao Changkong could be said to be very aggrieved. He had the cultivation of a half-step to martial king, but he could not use any of his strength. He was like a fish on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Die! After sending Ao Changkong flying with a punch, Fei Ren used the origin power he had absorbed to appear in front of his opponent in a flash. Once again, he threw out a punch with all his strength and completely finished off his opponent. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, not leaving behind any trouble. His opponent was the crown prince of the Great Song Empire. If such a powerful enemy escaped, Fei Ren would definitely be hunted down endlessly in the future. Pfft! Ao Changkong's chest was pierced, and his heart meridians and bones were all shattered. Ao Changkong spat out another mouthful of blood, then his head tilted to the side, and he was completely dead. After all, he was only a half-step to martial king. If Ao Changkong was a real martial king expert, even if his heart meridians were shattered, as long as his dantian and nascent soul were still there was still a slight chance of saving him. It's finally over. After killing Ao Changkong, Fei Ren's body went limp, and he sat down on the ground, panting heavily. It seemed that he did not even have the strength to move. His blood-stained face finally relaxed. At the same time, somewhere in the heavenly demon secret realm, a black-robed elder stood quietly, and beside him were several martial spirit realm experts. Everyone looked at the black-robed elder with eyes full of respect, as if he had a high status in the team. Why hasn't His Highness the Crown Prince returned after leaving for so long? The black-robed elder had a puzzled look on his face as a green soul lamp lay quietly in his right palm. Crack! The soul lamp in his hand suddenly shattered, and in the next moment, the black-robed elder's expression changed greatly, and his eyes were filled with deep shock. Something had happened. This green soul lamp was Ao Changkong's natal soul lamp, and it was closely related to him. Now that the green soul lamp had suddenly shattered, there was only one possibility, and that was that Ao Changkong was in trouble, and it was very likely that he was dead. No matter who you are, how dare you kill the crown prince of the Great Song Empire? I will skin you, pull out your tendons, and tear you into pieces. The black-robed old man roared at the sky. In the next moment, his eyes were spitting fire. Endless killing intent appeared on his wrinkled face. A powerful aura of a martial king spread out. It was extremely oppressive. However, at this time, Fei Ren did not know that after killing Ao Changkong, he had been targeted by a martial king expert of the Great Song Empire and was in danger. Chapter 607. In front of the withered wood cliff. After resting for an hour, the yuan power in Fei Ren's dantian finally recovered a little. Even though the injuries on his body had yet to heal, there was still a trace of strength left. It was not to the extent that he could not even walk. This guy is the crown prince of the Great Song Empire. Now that I have killed him, I must have an irreconcilable hatred with the Great Song Empire. I have to leave this place quickly. Looking at Ao Changkong's corpse beside him, Fei Ren exhaled heavily and slowly stood up. Buzz! A small ancient cauldron appeared in his palm. In the next moment, Fei Ren threw the small cauldron into the air. In an instant, the small cauldron suddenly became several times bigger. At the same time, it sucked in all of Ao Changkong's corpse on the ground. Using the power of the refining immortal cauldron to destroy the corpse, he did not want to leave any traces that could easily lead to the Great Song Empire's pursuit. In addition, the dead Ao Changkong was also a half-step to martial king expert. If he absorbed and refined his corpse, Fei Ren's own cultivation would also increase a lot. Therefore, he could not waste it. Before leaving this place, Fei Ren still had to devour and refine Ao Changkong's corpse. Bang! Using both of his hands, he slammed his palm on the refining immortal cauldron. The inscriptions on the cauldron flickered. In the next moment, the entire cauldron trembled. At the same time, wisps of green smoke were emitted. It seemed that Ao Changkong's corpse in the cauldron had begun to be refined. Another incense stick's time passed. As wisps of pure energy flowed into his dantian, Fei Ren's aura rose again and again. Finally, he broke through and stepped into LV's 7 martial spirit realm. A half-step to Martial King Corpse. After devouring and refining, it did not disappoint my expectations. Retrieving the refining immortal cauldron in the air, Fei Ren was relieved. Although his injuries could not be healed in a short period of time, his dantian was full again because of the breakthrough in his cultivation. Even if he were to encounter any danger, he would not be in a situation where he could not resist. Although he was not at his peak, there was no problem for him to exert 80% of his strength. Phew! Hoo! Just as Fei Ren was about to leave, a violent gust of wind blew in all directions. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. At the same time, the pressure of a Martial King realm expert arose spontaneously and instantly enveloped the entire withered tree cliff, completely suppressing Fei Ren who was within it. Fei Ren couldn't help but feel apprehensive, and even his footsteps seemed to have become slightly heavier. Not good! Fei Ren's expression changed as well. Not only was the person's aura powerful, indicating that he had reached the Martial Emperor realm, but he also seemed to be charging straight at him. Little bastard, I've finally found you! In the sky, a cold and emotionless old voice faintly sounded. In the next moment, a wild wind whistled as a tall old man in a black robe appeared in front of Fei Ren. His old face was filled with wrinkles and murderous intent was revealed. It was as though he could not wait to tear the other party into pieces. The tall old man's name was Gu Tuesday. He was good at wind attribute martial arts and was titled Gale King. Not only was he a powerful LV3 Martial King realm expert, but he was also one of the foreign officials of the Great Song Empire. He was responsible for the safety of the Crown Prince, Ao Changkong, in the Heavenly Demon Mystery Land. However, Gu Tu had never expected that Ao Changkong would be killed by a nobody like Fei Ren. After swallowing a drop of Martial King liquid, Ao Changkong's origin power cultivation had skyrocketed from LV9 Martial Spirit Realm to half-step to Martial King Realm. He was only one step away from the Martial King Realm, and his strength was no weaker than a LV1 Martial King Realm expert. In addition, Gu Tu was also a genius ranked in the top 50 on the Hidden Dragon list. He had mastered many high-level martial arts and secret skills. Today, this old man will avenge the Crown Prince. Thinking of this, the murderous intent on Gu Tu's face intensified, and he could not remain calm. Originally, he had been ordered by the Emperor of the Great Song Empire to protect the Crown Prince, Ao Changkong, in the Heavenly Demon Mystery Land. Now that Ao Changkong had died, as a foreign official of the Great Song Empire, Gu Tu naturally could not absolve himself from the blame. Therefore, unless he personally chopped off Fei Ren's head and brought it back for punishment, Gu Tu himself could not bear the anger of the Great Song Empire's imperial family. As expected, this old man is also from the Great Song Empire, LV3 Martial King Realm. This is troublesome. Looking at Gu Tu, who was not far away, Fei Ren clenched his fists under his sleeves, and there was a trace of bitterness on his face. He had barely escaped death, and used all his strength and trump cards to kill Ao Changkong, who was at half-step to Martial King Realm. However, before he could heave a sigh of relief, Gu Tu, who was at LV3 Martial King Realm, appeared. He was unlucky enough to have such a fate. What should I do? Bewildered, Fei Ren's eyes were filled with worry. He was definitely no match for Gu Tu in a head-on fight. If he tried to escape, the chances of him succeeding were not high. Now, not only was he injured, but he also had to divert a portion of his yuan power to resist the king's aura. It was almost certain that he would die. Die. With a violent roar, Gu Tu raised his hand and blasted out a palm. In an instant, a large amount of yuan power swept out and turned into a huge green wind blade. It immediately slashed towards Fei Ren, who was on the ground below. Even if Fei Ren was not injured, he would not be able to withstand the full force attack of a LV-3 Martial King Realm expert even if he was in his peak condition. Damn it! Facing Gu Tu's violent attack, Fei Ren's expression changed as well. He immediately circulated the protective yuan power around him to the maximum. At the same time, he summoned the immortal refining cauldron with the intention of blocking the attack. Pfft! The protective yuan power was shattered by the green wind blade. Even the immortal refining cauldron was sent flying. It then slashed viciously onto Fei Ren's body. In the next moment, Fei Ren spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura dropped drastically as his body fell into the dense forest behind him. Am I going to die here? I can't accept this. Fei Ren's eyes were filled with indignation and anger. In the next moment, something strange happened. Buzz! The immortal refining cauldron, which was sent flying by the green wind blade, vibrated as if it had heard its master's call. This is the power of the immortal refining cauldron? Fei Ren's face was filled with shock. He watched as the immortal refining cauldron tore through space. Then, countless streams of devouring power were unleashed. Not only did it force Gu Tu back, but it also sucked him into the new spatial crack. What's going on? Fei Ren was severely injured, and the last trace of consciousness in his mind gradually dissipated. In the next moment, he fainted due to excessive blood loss. Then, the cracks in space closed up again and returned to normal as if nothing had happened. There was dead silence in front of the withered tree cliff. He ran away? At this moment, Gu Tu's face was stunned, and then it suddenly became extremely ugly. He had never imagined that Fei Ren, who was in a situation where he was sure to die, would still be able to escape. Moreover, the small ancient cauldron in Fei Ren's hand was actually capable of tearing space apart. It automatically protected its master. Now, Fei Ren had gone through the space transmission. No one knew where he was and could not find him. Chapter 608. Be **starred. Gu Tu's angry roar resounded in front of the withered tree cliff again. Although he had found the real culprit who killed Ao Chongkong, he could only watch helplessly as the culprit escaped. One could only imagine the unwillingness and anger in his heart. This time, he had been too careless. Northern continent swoosh. A void crack suddenly tore open in the sky above, emitting a mysterious aura. In the next moment, a wretched figure fell from it and crashed into a valley below, stirring up a cloud of dust. At this moment, a small and simple cauldron was faintly visible lying silently before the chest of the figure. It was attracted to the spatial rift in the sky, and it emanated strands of devouring energy that gradually vanished after a few breaths of time. A faint light flickered, and in the next moment, the immortal refining cauldron returned to its original state. At the same time, it slowly sank into Fei Ren's chest. Where am I? Slowly opening his eyes, Fei Ren felt a splitting headache. He then subconsciously touched his chest. Just a moment ago, he seemed to have seen the immortal refining cauldron enter his body again. Not only that, but even the terrible injuries on his body seemed to have recovered a little. The wounds gradually stopped bleeding and healed, leaving behind scars. The immortal refining cauldron saved me. Without this thing, I might have died in the hands of the Gale King. Gu Tu, after regaining consciousness, Fei Ren also sorted out his thoughts. In the next moment, he slowly sat up with a look of fear on his face. Now, he was certain that he had escaped Gu Tu's pursuit. Previously in the heavenly demon's secret realm, at the last moment of life and death, the immortal refining cauldron seemed to have heard his call and actually took the initiative to protect its master. At the same time, it tore open a void crack to teleport him away. As for where he was now, Feyrin did not know for the time being. He was seriously injured and had lost consciousness. It was good enough that he was still alive. However, he was sure that he had already left the heavenly demon's secret realm. After all, Gale King Gutu was a LV3 Martial King realm expert. His origin power was much more sensitive than Feyrin's. If Feyrin was still in the heavenly beast mystery realm, it would be difficult for him to escape from Gale King Gutu's pursuit no matter how well he hid. 10th level of the martial spirit realm, my origin power cultivation has made another breakthrough. Meanwhile, Feyrin suddenly noticed that the origin energy in his Dantian had become much stronger, and it was a few times more formidable than when he fought Gu Tuesday. Is this a blessing in disguise? Although he had almost died at Gu Tu's hands, it was a blessing in disguise. Gu Tu had failed to kill him back then, and his Yuan power cultivation had achieved another breakthrough. Furthermore, he had broken through 3 levels in a row and directly reached the 10th level of the martial spirit realm. Speaking of which, Feyrin still had to thank Gu Tu for that palm strike. Not only did it not take his life, it even gave him a fortuitous encounter. Thinking of this, he sat down cross-legged and took out a few grade 7 elixir pills from his spiritual ring and swallowed them. As he healed the injuries on his body, he began to condense the Overlord's Mageweth with a calm expression. Now that his origin power cultivation had broken through to the 10th level of the martial spirit realm, it meant that Feyrin could condense more Overlord's Mageweth. 2 hours later, Feyrin's injuries were almost fully healed, and at the same time, he had successfully condensed 15 Overlord's Mageweth in his Dantian. The 15 Overlord's Mageweth was more than double the previous 7 Overlord's Mageweth, and its power was extraordinary. Now, with his origin power cultivation and the power of the 15 Overlord's Mageweth, Feyrin was confident that he could contend with Gale King Gu Tu the next time he met him. Even if he was defeated in the end, he would still have the power to fight back. Pata, stepping forward, his left hand accidentally touched the cliff of the valley beside him. In the next moment, a ray of white light appeared in Feyrin's palm and disappeared in an instant. What's this? Feyrin's face was filled with astonishment as he looked at the mountain wall that his hand had touched. At this moment, the mountain wall was actually covered with a layer of pure white coating that was like a thin film. It contained a weak power of Tao art. Then, a strand of tender shoots slowly grew out of the mountain wall. The shoots were dripping with dew, as if they were made by nature and were born out of nothing. The aura of a Tao art. Could it be that I survived this disaster and obtained a trace of Tao art power? Slowly retracting his left hand, Feyrin was puzzled. Swoosh. As if he wanted to verify his judgment, Feyrin stretched out his right hand and touched the tree buds on the mountain wall. Pop, like ripples in water, the moment Feyrin's right hand touched the tree bud, a weak strand of Tao law power came out of his palm. In the next moment, the tree bud withered at an extremely shocking speed, then withered and metabolized, turning into a wisp of nothingness. Creating something out of nothing, turning yin into yang, and the transformation of the two was called yin and yang. It really is the power of the yin-yang Tao art. Focusing his eyes, Feyrin's expression turned serious, as if he had understood the ins and outs of everything. After experiencing a near-death situation, not only did he achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation base, but he also comprehended the rare yin-yang Tao art. The power of Tao art was the evolution and upgrade of the power of concept. As for the yin-yang Tao art, it was even rarer and belonged to a very special Tao art power. Its power and effect were far superior to ordinary Tao art. Even Gao Yunshin's sword Tao art and Ao Changkong's flame Tao art could not compare to it. Although Feyrin was only at the initial stage of the yin-yang Tao art and had not mastered it to perfection, Its power and effect could be seen just now. It was creating something out of nothing and reversing yin and yang. To put it simply, if the opponent's attack came, Feiren could not only use the yin-yang Dao art to dissolve the attack, but he could also reflect the opponent's attack. It was like the great shift of heaven and earth, allowing him to be in an advantageous position. Other than that, the most powerful part of the yin-yang Dao art was creating something out of nothing. As long as the martial artist was strong enough, not only could he use the power of Dao art to revive the dead, he could even create a life form with intelligence. In the valley, while familiarizing himself with the new yin-yang Dao art power, Feiren explored the terrain and surroundings. So this is the northern continent. The divine immortal Cauldron sent me to the northern continent. Is this a coincidence? Back in the ancestral tomb, Guanxing seemed to have said that this is the origin of the Dragon God sect. After another incense stick's worth of time, Feiren finally familiarized himself with his location. Now, he had left the eastern continent and was now in the northern continent. Unlike the eastern continent, the number of human martial artists in the northern continent did not occupy a dominant position. There were many foreign races and demonic beasts in the territory. It could be considered a gathering of various civilizations and 100 schools of thought. Other than that, the northern continent was also the origin of the number 1 sect in the Black Star continent, the Dragon God sect. The sect master of the Dragon God sect, known as the Heavenly King of the 8 tribes of heavenly dragons, was from the northern continent. Therefore, the northern continent attracted many martial artists, rogue cultivators, and young geniuses who yearned for the glory of the Dragon God sect in the past. A large number of martial artists and young geniuses followed here. Chapter 609. The northern continent is the birthplace of the Dragon sect. I should be able to find out some secrets about the Dragon sect from here, as well as the whereabouts of my parents, Feiren thought to himself as he clenched his fists. Back in the Dacha dynasty, he had learned from the remnant soul of Zhang Qingyang that he was a descendant of a high-ranking figure in the Dragon sect. However, the other party had some reservations about the deeds of his birth parents and did not say anything. Now, he only knew that his birth parents had a grudge with some forces on the Xuanxing continent. Back then, they had been hunted down by many forces on the Xuanxing continent. As for whether they were alive or dead, Feiren did not know. These were the truths that he wanted to uncover one by one. He would make those people pay for what they had done to his parents one by one. Swoosh! Feiren spat out another mouthful of turbid air. In the next moment, he also leaped into the air and left the valley. In the sky, before I inquire about the heavenly dragon sect, I need to find a place to stay. Feiren took out a simple and crude map from his spirit ring and looked at it carefully. Taishan City. This is it. Feiren made up his mind and then put away the map. Taishan City was the closest city to the valley below him. It belonged to the Sword Sect, and this time, he planned to go to Taishan City. As for the Sword Sect, it was the most powerful third-grade force in the vicinity. It occupied 18 sizable cities, known as the 18 cities of the Sword Sect. Not only were there many masters, but there were also many disciples. It was rumored that the current leader of the Sword Sect was also a mystique venerable with unparalleled strength. Taishan City was one of the 18 cities of the Sword Sect. The forces in the city were intricate. In addition to the city lord's office, which occupied the dominant position, there were 2 fourth-grade clans, the Li family and the Wu family. Although the Li family and the Wu family were both fourth-grade clans, the 2 families had always been at odds with each other, fighting both openly and covertly. They could be considered as old enemies. After a while, Feiren arrived at Taishan City. However, he did not stop at the city gate. Instead, he flew straight into the city. At the same time, he attracted the attention of some martial artists and rogue cultivators. He's already at level 10 martial spirit realm at such a young age. He's another genius. Could it be that Li, that brat, has returned? I don't think so. This person looks very unfamiliar. He's not a genius from the Wu clan or the Li clan. At the same time, he's not from the city lord's mansion either. That's true. Ignoring the discussions of the crowd, Fei Ren directly found an inn to stay in after entering the city. At the same time, he prepared to inquire about the Heavenly Dragon sect. Hey, have you heard? The Li family seems to be recruiting alchemists. In the lobby on the first floor of the inn, a few martial warriors were whispering to each other. One of them was beaming with joy. Really? It's absolutely true. The Li clan has even announced that every alchemist who joins the Li clan will enjoy the treatment of a top-notch guest elder. Apart from that, they are free to come and go. Even the patriarch has no right to control them. As long as they refine a batch of medicinal pills for the Li clan regularly, they will receive a large amount of benefit. The martial warrior who spoke first said again, and his companion beside him also showed a surprised expression. Wow, this is too good. The Li clan is a 4th-rank clan. If you can become a guest elder of the Li clan, you will be rich. Next to him, a man with a buzz cut smacked his lips and sighed. Unfortunately, it will be difficult to become a guest elder of the Li clan. His cultivation was at the 6th level of the martial spirit realm, which was not too weak. However, his spiritual strength was very low, not even at the 3rd level of the profound martial realm. Therefore, the man with a buzz cut knew his own limitations and did not compete for the position of a guest elder of the Li clan. Even if he went, it would be a slap in the face in vain. In the territory of Taishan City, the Li clan was one of the 3 major forces after all. They had the foundation of a 4th-rank clan, second only to the city lord's mansion, which belonged to the sword sect. To become a guest elder of the Li clan, one had to be at least a 7th-rank alchemist or above. The Li clan is recruiting alchemists. I can give it a try. On the other side, Fei Ren's ears twitched slightly as he heard the conversation of the crowd. He also reached out and touched his chin. Just now, he did not have any plans, but now it was different. Right now, he had just arrived in the unfamiliar northern continent and was at a stage where he was unfamiliar with the people and the place. It was time-consuming and laborious for him to inquire about the dragon sect by himself, so joining a force was undoubtedly the best choice. After all, the Li clan was one of the famous 4th-rank clans in Taishan City, so their intelligence network and ability must be extraordinary. If he borrowed the power of the Li clan, he could easily obtain information about the former dragon sect. As soon as he made up his mind, Fei Ren turned and left the inn in the next moment, running in the direction of the Li clan in the city. In front of the gate of the Li clan's mansion, 2 young guards stood on the side, their faces solemn and their auras awe-inspiring. As one of the guards of the Li clan, the cultivation of the 2 young guards at the gate was not weak. They had both reached the martial spirit realm. One of them was at the 7th level of the martial spirit realm, while the other was slightly weaker. His cultivation of Yuan Li seemed to have just broken through to the 6th level of the martial spirit realm. After a while, Fei Ren came to the front of the Li clan's mansion. "Stop, who are you?" Seeing Fei Ren not far away coming to the gate of the Li clan's mansion, one of the guards stepped forward and stopped him. "I'm just a rogue cultivator. I heard that your mansion is hiring an alchemist, so I'm here." Seeing that the guard had stopped him, Fei Ren only grinned. He wasn't surprised at all. After all, it was his first time in the northern continent, so he naturally did not know much about the various forces in Taishan City. As for the people who knew him, there were even fewer. Applying for an alchemist? Just you? Hearing this, the guard and his companion were stunned for a moment, seeming to be very surprised. After all, Fei Ren in front of them was very young, looking only about 21 years old. How could such a young person be an alchemist? The two of them had thousands of doubts in their hearts. And taking a step back, even if Fei Ren was really an alchemist, his alchemy skills would not be that strong. After all, the other party was too young, and the Li clan was not recruiting ordinary alchemists this time. The requirements were very strict, and they would not consider anyone below the 7th level. Why, brothers, don't I look like an alchemist? Faced with the doubts of the two Li clan guards, Fei Ren did not deliberately refute them. He just shrugged and smiled playfully. Long before he went to Taishan City, and during his experience in the Heavenly Demon Secret Territory, he had never neglected the cultivation of alchemy and spiritual power. Both of them were advancing side by side with his martial arts cultivation, and they were not lagging behind by too much. Now, his spiritual power had already stepped into the 8th level of the profound martial realm, and at the same time, his alchemy skills had also improved by leaps and bounds, reaching the level of an 8th level alchemist. Therefore, this time when he went to the Li clan to apply for an alchemist position, Fei Ren was full of confidence. Holy sh*t, I'm an 8th level alchemist, and I'm not qualified to join the Li clan as a guest? Are you kidding me? After all, although the Li clan was a 4th level clan in Taishan City and had a strong foundation, they were not strong enough to reject an 8th level alchemist. Chapter 610. In the face of Fei Ren's self-recommendation, the two Li family guards looked at each other again, as if they had reached some kind of tacit agreement. Kid, at your age, you are at most a 4th-grade alchemist, right? The alchemists recruited by the Li family are at least 7th grade and above. I advise you to leave as soon as possible, one of the Li family guards said in an indifferent tone. That's right. If you continue to be a hindrance here, don't blame us for being impolite, the other Li family guard said disdainfully, as if he did not think that the other party had such a level of alchemy. It seems that I have to show my hand in the face of the contempt of the two Li family guards. Fei Ren's lips curled up. If he did not show some real skills now, these Li family people would really think that he was bragging. What's going on? Just as Fei Ren was about to prove his alchemy skills, a man's faint voice came from not far away. In the next moment, a middle-aged man in a white robe walked over. His face was firm and dignified, and he had the temperament of a superior. At the same time, the aura of Yuanli around him was very strong, which made people's hearts palpitate. Master! Seeing the middle-aged man in a white robe walk over, the two Li family guards at the door immediately changed their expressions, and then they cupped their fists and bowed their heads. Li Zinan, the current master of the Li family in Taishan City, was also one of the rare martial king realm experts. His cultivation was as high as LV8 martial king realm, and his strength was unfathomable. So he is the master of the Li family, LV8 martial king realm. He is indeed powerful. At this moment, seeing Li Zinan's appearance, Fei Ren also raised his eyes and looked over, secretly praising himself. Haha, my talent scout is here. This time, he originally wanted to join the Li family and become a distinguished guest. Now, he was worried about how to enter the Li family, and was stopped by the two Li family guards at the door, and Li Zinan's sudden appearance undoubtedly gave him a chance to recommend himself. Master, this person says that he is an alchemist and wants to apply for the position of guest. One of the Li family guards cupped his fists again, and said respectfully to Li Zinan, not daring to show the slightest disrespect in his tone. Although in his opinion, Fei Ren's actions were undoubtedly looking for trouble. After all, an alchemist who was able to become a guest elder of the Li family had to at least be a grade 7 alchemist or a martial king expert. Little brother, may I ask if what you said is true? Li Zinan's gaze also fell on Fei Ren. Surprise flashed across his eyes as he asked. Although the two Li family guards at the door were idiots who couldn't see through Fei Ren's strength, he was different. As the head of the Li family, Li Zinan could tell at a glance that Fei Ren's strength was extraordinary. At such a young age, he had reached the 10th tier of the martial spirit realm. Even among the 3 major forces of Taishan City, he was a first-class genius. Other than that, he also claimed to be an alchemist. If what Fei Ren said was true, then he was undoubtedly a genius who cultivated both martial arts and alchemy. Of course. Nodding, Fei Ren immediately cupped his fists at Li Zinan in front of him and said, "Seniorly, with my alchemy skills, I am definitely qualified to be a guest elder of your family. Please rest assured. By the way, these are the pills I just refined. The quality is average. Please excuse me." With a flick of his finger, Fei Ren took out a white pill bottle from his spirit ring and threw it at Li Zinan. "Grade 7 pills?" Raising his hand to catch the white pill bottle, Li Zinan was surprised. Inside the medicine bottle, there were several small pills that were completely green in color. They had a translucent luster, and it could be seen that they were of high quality. They had already reached the level of 7th grade pills. Even if the medicine bottle was not deliberately opened, there were wisps of faint pill fragrance wafting out from within, penetrating into one's heart. This kid, how could he? At this moment, facing such a generous Fei Ren, the 2 Li family guards looked at each other in dismay, their faces filled with disbelief. After all, he threw out a few grade 7 pills right off the bat. It was enough to see how wealthy he was. If he was not an alchemist, he would not have the financial resources to carry such a large amount of high-quality pills. "Seniorly, how about these pills? If the quality is not good, I still have some good stuff here." Grinning, seeing that Li Zinan did not speak, Fei Ren said again. These grade 7 pills were the vitality replenishing pills that he usually refined. After swallowing them, they could quickly recover lost origin power and energy, thus reaching peak condition. Damn! At this moment, hearing these words, the 2 Li family guards were so shocked that their jaws dropped. They looked at Fei Ren with eyes full of shock. This was too ridiculous. Could it be that this kid was really a grade 7 alchemist? He was only in his early 20s, right? Monster. "Little brother, please follow me." Keeping the white pill bottle in his hand, Li Zinan nodded slightly. Looking at Fei Ren with eyes full of admiration, he then turned and stepped into the mansion. Seeing this scene, Fei Ren also followed, leaving behind the 2 Li family guards, whose faces were filled with shock in a daze. Li Mansion, in a spacious courtyard, rockeries stood in great numbers and streams crisscrossed. "Little brother, although these pills are indeed authentic grade 7 pills, I still want to see your alchemy skills with my own eyes. I hope you don't mind." Turning his head to look at Fei Ren beside him, Li Zinan smiled faintly. "No worries." Hearing Li Zinan's explanation, Fei Ren grinned, as if he had expected it. After a while, Fei Ren also followed Li Zinan to a luxurious hall. It seemed to be the Li family's meeting hall. "Is Elder Song here?" Looking at a servant beside him, Li Zinan said faintly. "Master, Elder Song will be here soon." Hearing Li Zinan's question, the servant hurriedly knelt on the ground and said respectfully, not daring to be negligent. Elder Song was one of the guests of the Li family, and at the same time, the only 7th grade alchemist. His status was high and respected, and his reputation in the Li family was not inferior to the patriarch, Li Zainan. Even when facing Elder Song, Li Zainan would still show due respect. Elder Song is also an alchemist. When the time comes, perhaps you can exchange pointers in alchemy. Turning his head to look at Fei Ren behind him, Li Zinan opened his mouth and said in the next moment, an inexplicable smile on his face. To be honest, he was also very much looking forward to seeing what level Fei Ren, who was only in his early 20s, had achieved in alchemy. Had he really reached the level of a grade 7 alchemist? "Family head, you were looking for me?" At this moment, an old voice slowly came from the outside. In the next moment, a white-haired old man wearing a black robe slowly stepped into the hall. His face was full of wrinkles, like a shriveled chrysanthemum. No change in expression could be seen. It seemed to be the elder Song that the other party had mentioned, the only grade 7 alchemist in the Li family. Chapter 6:11. Elder Song, you're finally here. Li Zinan smiled faintly. This time, he wanted to use Elder Song to test Fei Ren's alchemy skills. Master, this is? At the same time, Elder Song also noticed Fei Ren by the side, and he was puzzled. His aura was extraordinary. He had already reached the 10th level of the martial spirit realm. Plus, he was young, so he was obviously a genius. However, Fei Ren's face was very unfamiliar. He wasn't from the 3 major forces of Taishan City. This made Elder Song feel a little strange. This little brother is called Fei Ren. Not only is he successful in cultivation, but his alchemy skills are also superb. He's planning to apply for the position of our Li family's guest elder. Before Elder Song could think any further, Li Zinan said with a smile. At the same time, he intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Fei Ren, as if he was waiting for a reaction. However, to Li Zinan's surprise, Fei Ren was extremely calm at this moment. He only nodded his head, looking as if he was unfazed by honor or disgrace. This little boy is also an alchemist? Master, you're not joking with me, are you? Hearing this, Elder Song frowned and a trace of hostility appeared on his old face. Elder Song, this is why I called you here. Seeing the change in Elder Song's expression, Li Zinan probed again. As the master of the Li family, he knew Elder Song's temper very well. Elder Song had lived like a prince in the Li family for many years and had a respected status. Now, a young man suddenly appeared and wanted to compete with him. Elder Song was naturally unhappy. Right now, Li Zinan wanted to see if Old Man Song's alchemy skills were superior, or if Fei Ren was better. If it was the former, then he would treat it as if nothing had happened. However, if it was the latter, then his Li family had undoubtedly picked up a huge bargain. After all, Fei Ren was a young genius who cultivated both martial arts and alchemy. If the Li family could rope him in, it would be very beneficial in the future. Elder Song, whether I have the ability or not, you'll know in a moment. Similarly, Fei Ren sensed a trace of enmity in the other party's words. Fei Ren opened his mouth again, his tone indifferent. His spiritual force had already broken through to the 8th stage of the profound martial realm, and his alchemy skills had also advanced to the 8th grade alchemist. On the other hand, Elder Song was just a mere 7th grade alchemist. It was obvious at a glance that the other party was no match for him. Shameless boasting. Brat, this old man wants to see what kind of ability you have. Faced with Fei Ren's provocation, Old Song's beard immediately puffed up as he said somewhat angrily. As a dignified 7th-tier alchemist, the Li clan's most esteemed guest, how could he allow a junior to put on airs in front of him? You dare to drink with me? I'll make you cry later. Elder Song roared in her heart. Tell me, how do you want to compete? Seeing that the fish had taken the bait, Fei Ren spoke again. There were only 2 types of alchemy duels, theory and practice. For an experienced alchemist, theory could be learned in a short period of time, such as the recitation of pill formulas and the identification of various medicinal ingredients. However, practice required a long time of refining pills, and there were no shortcuts. Therefore, the most important thing for an alchemist was their alchemy skills. Even if their theoretical knowledge was shallow, as long as their alchemy skills were strong enough, they could still refine top-grade pills. How about we compete in alchemy? Elder Song was very confident in his alchemy skills. In his opinion, Fei Ren was just a young man in his early 20s. So what if he was an alchemist? His alchemy skills were definitely limited and would not exceed the 4th grade. On the other hand, Elder Song was a 7th-grade alchemist who had immersed himself in alchemy for many years. He only needed an opportunity to break through the profound martial realm and step into the ranks of an 8th-grade alchemist. Therefore, in Elder Song's eyes, Fei-Ren would lose without a doubt. "All right, let's compete in alchemy." Faced with Elder Song's words, Fei-Ren did not hesitate. This was exactly what he wanted. "Family head, please move to the side." Seeing Fei-Ren's calm face, Elder Song snorted again. He then gestured for Li Zinan beside him to step back. At the same time, he took out a black cauldron from his spiritual ring. Bang! The black cauldron landed heavily on the ground with a loud thud. It seemed to be quite heavy and looked very heavy. This black cauldron was called the Taishan Cauldron. Not only was its quality high, but it was also a rare cauldron for alchemy. In order to obtain this Taishan Cauldron, Elder Song had spent close to 1,000,000 mid-grade vitality stones. "Kid, since it's an alchemy competition, there should be a time limit, right?" 2 hours. Fei-Ren said lightly. "All right, I hope you have the ability to do so." Smiling coldly, Elder Song retracted his gaze and no longer paid attention to his opponent. He raised his hand and slapped the Taishan Cauldron. In an instant, wisps of alchemy fire gushed out from his palm and wrapped around the cauldron. Then, he took out a large number of herbs and demon cores from his spiritual ring and was ready to start alchemy. What he wanted to refine was the 7th-grade elixir blood circulation deblinking powder. This elixir was the top of the 7th-grade elixirs. Its medicinal effect was excellent. Not only could it help warriors quickly stop bleeding and heal injuries, but it could also dredge the meridians and achieve the effect of replenishing vitality. To put it simply, the blood circulation deblinking powder was a high-grade healing elixir. It could be sold for at least tens of thousands of mid-grade vitality stones on the black market outside. "Brat, you're going to lose," Elder Song thought fiercely in his heart. The next moment, he turned his gaze and glanced at Fei-Ren beside him. However, he was suddenly stunned. Fei-Ren also had a furnace placed in front of him, but its appearance was ordinary. The body of the furnace was covered with obscure inscriptions, and its size was very small. It didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. In fact, it couldn't even be considered a furnace. It looked more like an item from a street stall. "What kind of rubbish cauldron is this? You want to beat me with this? You must be dreaming." The sneer on his face became more obvious. Elder Song immediately stopped paying attention to his opponent and began to concentrate on refining elixirs. In his heart, he had an 80% chance of winning this alchemy competition. Unless a miracle happened, Fei-Ren could not beat him. After all, the quality of the elixir was not only related to the alchemist's level, but also to the cauldron. A high-grade cauldron was of great help to an alchemist. "Let's refine the Heaven Pulse elixir this time." Fei-Ren slowly took out the corresponding medicinal herbs and demon cores from the spiritual ring. His face was calm. Although the refining immortal cauldron in his hand did not look very good, and was not as domineering as Elder Song's Taishan Cauldron. However, this was not the key to competing in alchemy. No matter how good-looking one would be useless if one did not have the ability. The refining immortal cauldron in his hand was much more powerful than an ordinary cauldron. It was comparable to an alchemist's right-hand man. In addition, since he escaped from the Gale King, Gu Tu, the refining immortal cauldron had undergone many changes. The strange inscriptions on the cauldron had recovered some of their luster. It was originally a quarter, but now it was half. At the same time, it had unlocked the function of automatic protection and space transmission. Chapter 612. Swoosh! Fei-Ren collected his thoughts and grabbed a herb from the side. Then he threw it into the refining divine cauldron. The Heaven Pulse elixir he was going to refine was one of the 8th-grade elixirs. It was very difficult and tested the refiner's patience. Once the temperature of the flame was unstable and the mixture of the herbs was out of balance, even the slightest mistake could cause the refinement to fail. Therefore, the price of the Heaven Pulse elixir had skyrocketed. It was more expensive than ordinary 8th grade elixirs. In the outside world, it would cost at least 100,000 mid-grade primordial stones to buy a Heaven Pulse elixir in the black market. And it was not guaranteed that one could get it. In addition, the effect of the Heaven Pulse elixir was much better than the 7th grade elixir, blood circulation, and meridian unblocking powder, made by Elder Song. Although the blood circulation and meridian unblocking powder was a high-grade healing elixir, it had some limitations. It was only effective for experts in the martial spirit realm and had little effect on those above the martial king realm. On the other hand, the Heaven Pulse elixir was different. The Heaven Pulse elixir was not only suitable for martial king realm experts to heal injuries, but also to open up the meridians of the martial artists by acupoint for a short period of time. It could improve the power of understanding and greatly improve the efficiency of cultivation. It was a rare 8th grade elixir. The difference between the two could be easily seen at a glance. Swoosh! Strands of glazed fire gushed out of his palms and rolled toward the refining divine cauldron. Faerun had officially started refining the elixir. Swoosh! Swoosh! Faerun took out dozens of herbs and piled them on the side of the hall. Now he was focused. The materials needed to refine the Heaven Pulse elixir were complicated, and Faerun was not 100% sure that he would succeed. He only had a 70% chance of success, so he had to prepare more materials in case of an emergency. Swoosh! A few minutes later, the cauldron wrapped in glazed fire suddenly trembled. Then it discharged a cloud of pungent black gas and waste. Did I fail? Faerun was not discouraged when he saw a ball of black gas and waste surging out of the immortal refining cauldron. He seemed to have expected it. In the next moment, he grabbed the medicinal materials from the side and threw them into the cauldron. His movements were neither fast nor slow, as if he was not panicked at all. Elder Song is refining a grade 7 medicinal pill, the blood circulation and meridian unblocking powder. I wonder how this kid is going to deal with it. Seeing that Faerun's movements were neither fast nor slow, Li Zinan, who was watching from the side, had a serious expression on his face. A hint of astonishment appeared in his eyes. By now, nearly half of the 2-hour time limit had passed. Elder Song had already finished refining the medicinal liquid and was only left with the final step of fusing it into a pill. However, Faerun's side seemed to have just started refining the pill and was lagging behind by more than half. Moreover, the other party had failed to refine the medicinal liquid just now, wasting a lot of medicinal herbs and magic cores. Brat, don't try to be brave if you don't have that level. It's not shameful for you to lose to me. At this moment, this scene also fell into Elder Song's eyes. He smiled coldly, and his words were full of disdain. As a grade 7 alchemist who had immersed himself in the art of alchemy for many years, he could naturally tell that the pill Faerun planned to refine was not an ordinary one. Moreover, its grade was not inferior to his blood circulation and meridian unblocking powder. This could be seen from the selection of medicinal herbs and magic cores. The medicinal herbs and magic cores that Faerun used were all high-grade goods. There were also many medicinal herbs that were more than 500 years old and earth-rank magic cores. However, if one did not have a certain level of skill in alchemy, it would be useless no matter how high-grade the ingredients were. In Elder Song's opinion, his opponent's actions were a reckless waste of resources. There was no way he could win against him. Old man, you don't have to worry about my affairs. Anyway, you're going to lose. Ignoring Elder Song's mockery, Faerun threw medicinal herbs and magic cores into the cauldron as he began refining the medicinal liquid. His tone was neither fast nor slow. Brat, let's see how arrogant you can be later. Hearing this, Elder Song's face flushed red like a pig's liver. He immediately fell silent and began to focus on refining pills. In terms of eloquence, he was still inferior to Feyrin. If he continued to speak, the other party would not do anything, but he would go crazy with anger. Right now, if he wanted to humiliate the other party, he could only use the results to speak for themselves. Unknowingly, another hour had passed. This alchemy competition had finally come to an end, and Elder Song gradually retracted his alchemy fire. At the same time, he raised his hand and removed the Mount Tai cauldron. Patriarch, this old man's refinement is finished. He turned his head to look at Lizinen, only to see that a small glass jade bottle had appeared in his left palm at some point in time. Several exquisite and bright fiery red pills were quietly placed in it. The top of the pills vaguely appeared with patterns, and the entire body emitted a luster like a longan. The fragrance of the pills assailed his nostrils. Grade 7 medicinal pill, blood circulation and meridian unblocking powder. His gaze focused, Lizinen nodded slightly, and a hint of approval appeared on his face. Shockingly, the medicinal pill in the opponent's hand was precisely the rare 7th-grade medicinal pill, the blood circulation and meridian unblocking powder. Moreover, from its appearance, it seemed that the quality of this medicinal pill was extremely good, at least reaching 90%. Although it couldn't be considered to be 99% perfect, it was still extremely rare. At the same time, on the other side, Feyrin had finally finished refining pills. He raised his hand and removed the glass fire and the immortal refining cauldron. Large beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. This time, he had failed twice in refining the Heaven Pulse pill, but fortunately, he succeeded on the last try. As for the Heaven Pulse pill, there were 3 pills. 2 of them were of 93% quality, and the other one was of 99% perfect quality. Kid, where are the pills you refined? Take them out and let me have a look. Maybe this old man can teach you a thing or two. At this time, seeing that Feyrin had also finished refining, Elder Song spoke again, with a hint of disdain in his voice. Then I'll ask Elder Song to teach me a thing or two. Facing the arrogant Elder Song, Feyrin's lips curled into a playful smile. The next moment, he flicked his finger and shot a Heaven Pulse pill of 93% quality at Elder Song. How dare you pretend to be arrogant in front of me? Your face is swollen. Sneering in his heart, Feyrin crossed his arms in front of his chest and stood there calmly. The Grade 8 Heaven Pulse pill was far superior to the Meridian unblocking powder in both grade and quality. Elder Song could not win this competition of alchemy skills. Deliberately mystifying, Elder Song raised his hand to catch the Heaven Pulse pill thrown by Feyrin and snorted. However, the next moment, his face suddenly froze and was filled with disbelief. This is the Heaven Pulse pill, Elder Song exclaimed in a low voice. At this time, Lizinen also stepped forward and fixed his eyes on the pill in Elder Song's palm, his face full of shock. It's really the Heaven Pulse pill, Lizinen thought to himself. As a LV8 Martial King Realm expert, of course, he could not be wrong. The pill in Elder Song's hand was round and blue and white. It was filled with a fragrance that seeped into people's hearts. In the middle of the pill, there were strands of thin lines that looked like the meridians of a human body. It was the 8th grade pill, Heaven Pulse pill. How is this possible? Elder Song's lips trembled slightly. Looking at the Heaven Pulse pill in his palm, his face was full of disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. His previous arrogance was completely gone at this moment, and he stood there in a daze. In Elder Song's eyes, Feyrin was just a young man in his early 20s. How could he be in Grade 8 alchemist? Moreover, he had refined the rarer Heaven Pulse pill. This was completely beyond his understanding. Chapter 6:13. Old man, have you seen enough? While Elder Song was still in a daze, Feyrin's mocking voice came from the side. Now, do you still want to teach me a thing or two? Elder Song was also a grade 7 alchemist, so he must have seen that the elixir in his hand was a grade 8 Heaven Pulse elixir. Moreover, Li Zinan, a LV8 Martial King Realm expert, was standing beside him as a witness. Even if Elder Song wanted to play dumb, it would be useless. Therefore, he was sure to win this alchemy contest. You! Elder Song's face turned red. Although he was furious and unwilling to accept Fei Ren's mockery, there was nothing he could do. With his years of experience in alchemy, he could see that the elixir in his hand was a grade 8 Heaven Pulse elixir. Its quality was at least above 93%, which was several times better than the grade 7 elixir of blood circulation and meridian unblocking elixir. By the way, I have a perfect Heaven Pulse elixir with 99% quality. If you're interested, you can have a look at it. Fei Ren grinned when he saw the other party's ugly expression. Then, he threw the perfect quality Heaven Pulse elixir at the other party, as if adding fuel to the fire. A Heaven Pulse elixir with 99% quality. Seeing this scene, Li Zinan's eyes widened. In layman's terms, a Heaven Pulse elixir with 99% quality was a perfect elixir. Even an ordinary Heaven Pulse elixir could be sold at a sky-high price, let alone the one in Fei Ren's hand that was 99% perfect. The value of this elixir alone was no less than 300,000 medium-grade primordial stones. It's this old man who has lost. Your alchemy skills are top-notch. I have eyes but failed to recognize your greatness. I admit defeat. Goodbye. Elder Song snorted and gritted his teeth. He turned around and left in a huff. His face was full of anger, as if he did not want to stay a moment longer. After all, he had said that he would take care of Fei Ren from the very beginning. Now, he had been slapped in the face by the other party. Moreover, it was in front of the patriarch Li Zinan. Naturally, he did not have any face to stay here. Who on earth is this little bastard? He can refine a perfect grade 8 Heaven Pulse elixir at such a young age? After leaving the hall, Elder Song turned around and looked in the direction of Fei Ren with a bewildered expression. In the Li clan, as a 7th grade alchemist, he was a guest elder with the highest status. However, after today, he understood that it would be difficult for him to maintain his position. Fei Ren's alchemy skills had far surpassed his own. He was comparable to an 8th-tier alchemist. Li family inside the hall. After Old Song left, Li Zinan gradually recovered from his shock. At the same time, he looked at Fei Ren. Little brother Fei Ren, I didn't expect you to be a grade 8 alchemist at such a young age. Even Old Song is no match for you. I was wrong earlier, Li Zinan smiled. This alchemy duel between the two had truly broadened his horizons. Although the Li clan had offended the only 7th grade alchemist, Elder Song, because of Fei Ren, it would be a small matter if Fei Ren became a guest elder of the Li clan. After all, compared to Elder Song, Fei Ren's alchemy skills were undoubtedly stronger, and he was also younger. Senior Li is too polite. That old man's alchemy skills are actually not bad. It's just that his mentality is a little lacking. If he can't overcome this abnormal mentality, it will be very difficult for him to break through the 8th level of the profound martial realm and become an 8th-tier alchemist. Faced with Li Zinan's praise, Fei Ren grinned. At the same time, he pointed out Elder Song's shortcomings. Little brother Fei Ren, with your ability, you are more than qualified to become a guest elder of the Li clan. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. Li Zinan nodded again. Obviously, he recognized the other party's ability. After all, Fei Ren was an 8th-tier alchemist. The Li clan naturally couldn't miss out on such a talent. Otherwise, the other two forces in Taishan City, the Wu clan and the City Lord's mansion, might snatch him away. At that time, the Li clan would suffer a great loss. Coincidentally, I do have something that I need the Li clan's help with. Fei Ren rubbed his nose and said unhurriedly. Now that he was a guest elder of the Li clan, his status was high and his treatment was generous. Naturally, he wanted to use the Li clan's powerful intelligence network and connections to inquire about the dragon sect and his birth parent. What is it? Senior Li, you should have heard of the dragon sect, Fei Ren said again. The dragon sect. Li Zinan's face turned solemn as his tone turned solemn. Little brother, although the heavenly dragon sect used to be the #1 sect in the Black Star continent, it was besieged by countless forces in the Black Star continent in the Great War 30 years ago. Not only is the sect's heavenly king missing, but the entire heavenly dragon sect also suffered heavy losses. It can be said that it has provoked countless powerful enemies. Why do you want to know about the heavenly dragon sect? In his impression, any cultivator who got involved with the dragon sect would have a miserable end. There was no lack of being hunted down by various forces. Even the northern continent, where the dragon sect originated, was no exception. Basically, no one wanted to have a relationship with the dragon sect. In addition, the dragon sect had disappeared without a trace. Its power was far from what it used to be. There was very little information about the remnants of the sect. Only a few giants in the Black Star continent knew the inside story. Therefore, Li Zinan was very surprised to hear that Fei Ren wanted to inquire about the dragon sect. During that great war 30 years ago, I was not born yet. It seems like my parents should still be alive. Those bastards who participated in the annihilation of the dragon sect, just wait for this young master. Having heard this, Fei Ren's expression slightly trembled. His fists under his sleeves couldn't help but quietly clench as endless anger surged in his heart. His parents were members of the dragon sect. Back then, they were hunted down by many forces in the continent. Now, their fate was unknown. Although Fei Ren didn't know what kind of powerful enemies he was about to face, even Zhang Qingyang and Guan Feng were very wary of them in the past and didn't dare to mention half a word. He was a man of honor. If he didn't take revenge, then he wasn't a man. Inside the hall, if that's the case, then forget it. Thank you for the reminder, Senior Li. Fei Ren calmed his mind and forced himself to calm down. He did not reveal any emotional fluctuations as he said with a faint smile. That's good. Oh right, little brother, I have a presumptuous request. As if remembering something, Li Zinan said again. Senior, what's the matter? Fei Ren's face was a little puzzled. Li Zinan was a level 8 martial king expert. Naturally, he was very surprised that he needed his help. It's actually not a big deal. I hope you can represent our Li family in the City Lord Mansion competition in 2 months. Compared to your strength, the so-called young geniuses of our Li family are a little inferior. Li Zinan smiled faintly and then said with some helplessness. City Lord Mansion competition? Hearing this, Fei Ren was stunned. Chapter 6:14. It's like this. The City Lord's Mansion competition is an annual event in Taishan City. The participants are mainly the younger generation of the 3 forces. The purpose is to train each other. If the participants can obtain good results in the City Lord's Mansion competition, they will be able to obtain good rewards. As for these rewards, they are provided by the 3 major forces. Some of the rewards are extremely rare. Little brother Fei Ren, you should be interested. Li Zinan nodded and said. If I represent the Li family in the competition, all these rewards will be given to me, right? Fei Ren almost understood the meaning of the other party's words. He touched his nose again and smiled. Obviously, Li Zinan felt that the younger generation of the Li family was not strong enough and did not have the confidence to achieve good results in the City Lord's Mansion competition, so he intended to borrow his strength. After all, the City Lord's Mansion competition was an annual event in Taishan City. If the Li family did not perform well, or even ranked at the bottom, it would inevitably be a little embarrassing. Therefore, Li Zinan intended to ask Fei Ren to help. This move could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. Little brother Fei Ren is indeed a smart person. Li Nan smiled and said, "That's right, as long as little brother can help our Li clan gain face in the City Lord's Mansion tournament, those rewards are nothing. Our Li clan will also give you an additional gift." Okay. Without any hesitation, Fei Ren said decisively. After all, this was a benefit that came to him for free. He would not refuse it. Moreover, with his current strength, looking at the entire three forces of Taishan City, except for the veteran martial king realm masters like Li Zinan, he really did not take the rest of the younger generation seriously. After all, no matter how strong these people were, they were not as strong as the fierce Wind King, Gu Tu, who had hunted him down. Back in the Heavenly Demon's secret territory, even the fierce Wind King, Gu Tu, who was in the third level of the Martial King realm, could not kill him. Now that Fei Ren's cultivation had greatly increased, and his strength had soared several times, it was even more impossible for him to lose to the younger generation of the three forces of Taishan City. "Father, you were looking for me?" At this time, a faint male voice came from outside. In the next moment, a figure flashed into the hall, then came before Li Zinan and cupped his hands. The person who came was a tall young man with black hair and a long robe. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and his skin was slightly dark. He looked like a person who had been practicing martial arts all year round. His entire person exuded an upright and plain-spoken temperament. "Little Li, you're back." Seeing the black-haired young man arrive, Li Zinan's face also revealed a trace of a smile, as he warmly said. The other party was his eldest son, Li, who was also the current young clan leader of the Li family. His strength was impressive at such a young age, and his cultivation had reached the 8th tier of the martial spirit realm. Although he was slightly inferior to Fei Ren, he was among the top of the younger generation in Taishan City. "Father, this is?" Shifting his gaze, Li also noticed Fei Ren beside him. The other party's appearance was ordinary, and his face was unfamiliar. Furthermore, his essence energy aura was extremely ordinary, and he didn't seem to be someone with profound strength. At that moment, Li looked down on Fei Ren. "I forgot to introduce you. This little brother is... So you are the young clan leader of the Li family. Hello." Just as Li Zinan was about to introduce, he saw Fei Ren take a step forward and then extend his right hand to the other party with a smile on his face. "I don't deal with the weak." Facing Fei Ren's kindness, Li raised his eyebrows slightly and then said coldly. Even in front of Li Zinan, he didn't intend to give the other party any face. "Little Li, what are you doing? Don't be rude." Li Zinan's face darkened and then he scolded. He seemed to be somewhat dissatisfied. After all, Fei Ren was an external aide that he had painstakingly invited, not to mention that the other party was a rare 8th-tier alchemist, a genius who cultivated both martial arts and alchemy. "You're right, I think so too." Glancing at Li again, Fei Ren slowly withdrew his right hand. There was a hint of playfulness in his tone, as if he wasn't angry at the other party's attitude. "What do you mean?" "Literally." Frowning slightly, Li's face was somewhat serious. Although the other party didn't say it clearly, he wasn't a fool. Naturally, he could tell that Fei Ren's words had a double meaning. Where did this kid come from? How dare he look down on me? Thinking of this, Li couldn't help but feel angry. In the next moment, he stretched out his right hand and punched towards Fei Ren. Bang! Opening his 5 fingers, he raised his hand to catch Li's fist. Fei Ren's face was still calm as he said indifferently, "Young clan leader Li's temper is quite big, but I'm not your enemy. Why do you have to fight? What? Martial Spirit Realm level 10? Seeing that his right fist was firmly restrained by the other party, not only was he unable to move an inch, but his yuan power was also at a disadvantage. Li's face changed slightly and he exclaimed in a low voice. At this moment, he finally saw Fei Ren's true cultivation. In addition, Fei Ren's physical strength was also very strong. Even if he used his yuan power, he couldn't break free from the other party's grasp. An expert. At this moment Li Li also withdrew his contempt for Fei Ren, and it turned into deep fear and shock. Whoosh! His tiger body shook, and another majestic force gushed out from his palm. Then, it forced Li Li's body back a few steps. Fei Ren still had a smile on his face. Young clan leader Li, I don't know if I can deal with you now, your strength is extraordinary. I was rude earlier, I'm sorry. Hearing this, Li Li's face was a little strange. Then, he awkwardly cupped his hands towards Fei Ren. Previously, he naturally saw that the other party had held back. Otherwise, he wouldn't have just taken a few steps back. At the very least, he would have spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, or even be seriously injured. If he still didn't tactfully lower his head now, he wouldn't be young and frivolous, but extremely stupid. You brat, you're still as reckless as ever. You almost offended the Li family's distinguished guest. At the side, seeing that the conflict had been resolved, Li Zinan also leaned forward and said somewhat resentfully, Father, I'm sorry. No need, this little brother's name is Fei Ren. In the future, he will be one of our Li family's guest elders. His status is even higher than elder songs. In the future, you better watch your manners. Waving his hand, Li Zinan spoke again. What? Hearing this, Li Li was a little shocked. After all, Elder Song was the only grade 7 alchemist in their family. Fei Ren's status was even higher than Elder Song's. Could it be that the other party's alchemy skills were even higher, and he was a grade 8 alchemist? Brotherly, in the City Lord's Mansion competition in 2 months, please take care of me. Without waiting for Li Li to recover, Fei Ren spoke again. His tone was indifferent, as if he wasn't interested in fame and fortune. Brother Fei is too polite. In the future, just call me Li Li. I really don't dare. So Brother Fei is one of the external aides that Father invited this time. With Brother Fei's help, our Li family will definitely be able to achieve good results in the City Lord's Mansion competition. Seeing this scene, Li Li also withdrew the doubts in his heart and cupped his hands again. In the world of martial arts, the strong had always been respected. The strength of Fei Ren in front of him was far greater than his. It was not a problem for him to call the other a senior, let alone a brother. Time flew by, and 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. The City Lord's Mansion competition finally began. The City Lord's Mansion, which belonged to the Sword Sect, and the 2 fourth-rank families of Taishin City, the Li family and the Wu family, these 3 forces would send their best young geniuses to the arena where the City Lord's Mansion was located to participate in the annual City Lord's Mansion competition. Chapter 6:15. In a quiet courtyard of the Li clan, it's time to come out of seclusion. Fei Ren sat cross-legged with his hands folded in front of him. His eyes flickered with light as he gradually stopped cultivating. After 2 months of seclusion, his mastery of the Overlord's record of Western Chu had improved and reached greater mastery. As his mastery of the Overlord's record of Western Chu deepened, he also became more adept at using the Overlord's demonic rune. In addition, Fei Ren didn't neglect the tempering of his mental force during his long seclusion. His mental force was originally in the 8th stage of the profound martial realm, but now it had reached the 9th stage and was comparable to a 9th-grade alchemist. Above the 9th stage of the profound martial realm was the Earth Gate. Breaking through to the Earth Gate required an opportunity and wasn't something that could be achieved through hard work. Therefore, Fei Ren knew when to stop and didn't force himself to break through to the Earth Gate realm. Brother Fei, it's time for us to go. At this time, a shout came from outside the courtyard. Li Li had been waiting for a long time, and there were also several Li clan juniors that Lin Yun had never seen before. Sorry to keep you waiting. With a leap, Fei Ren arrived in front of them and nodded. Is this person our Li clan's foreign aide? It shouldn't be wrong. His aura is unfathomable. To be able to make the young patriarch so respectful, this person must be very powerful. Unlike Li, the Li clan juniors looked at Fei Ren with surprise. It was obvious that this was the first time they saw Fei Ren. Outside the Castellan mansion not long after, Fei Ren and Li arrived at the entrance. Just as they were about to enter, they saw a young man in a red robe walking towards them. Li, I trust you've been well since we last met. But you still look as weak as before. The corner of the young man's mouth rose. His eyes were spirited and his hands were wrapped in thick white bandages. He seemed to be a martial artist that specialized in fist technique. His background wasn't small, and there were several martial spirit realm juniors following behind him. Wu Yang, you're still as annoying as ever. Glancing at the scarlet-robed youth, Li said coldly. It was rare that he didn't get angry. It was as if he didn't want to fight with the scarlet-robed youth here. Same to you. I won't be merciful in the arena later. The red-robed young man named Wu Yang also smiled coldly. He raised his fist again, then turned around and left with his people. Who is this guy? Fei Ren asked after the red-robed young man left. He could see that the other party's origin energy was very strong. Although he was not his match, he had reached LV9 martial spirit realm and was slightly stronger than Li. This was also the reason why the other party dared to provoke Li. His name is Wu Yang, the son of that old dog Wu Tianxing. He's been my nemesis for many years. Compared to Yun Tianqing of the City Lord's mansion, this guy who hides a knife behind his smile is even more detestable. I've wanted to teach him a lesson for a long time, however, with my strength, I can at most fight him to a standstill. I can't do anything to him. Li explained methodically. A trace of dissatisfaction could be vaguely seen on his face. It seemed that he was very unhappy with the scarlet-robed youth from before. Right now, if it weren't for the fact that he was about to participate in the City Lord's Mansion Grand Competition and that Fei Ren was beside him, he would definitely rush up and fight with the other party. Even if he couldn't win in the end, he had to take down the other party's prestige. The Wu family, huh? Hearing this, Fei Ren looked thoughtful. Then, he raised his hand and patted Li's shoulder. He grinned and said, "Don't worry, I'll avenge you in a while. Of course it's good that Brother Fei is here." Hearing this, Li was also stunned. Then, he laughed out loud. In his opinion, with the cultivation of LV10 martial spirit realm, even if he couldn't defeat Yun Tianqing of the City Lord's mansion, it would be easy for him to deal with Wu Yang, who was at LV9 martial spirit realm. In the City Lord's mansion arena, the atmosphere was heated and the sound of drums shook the sky. As far as the eye could see, it was an incomparably spacious arena. Beside it were large and small viewing platforms. Among them, there were 3 separate viewing platforms at the highest point. They were spacious and luxurious, and seemed to be specially prepared for the high-ranking members of the 3 forces. After a while, the people of the 3 forces had all gathered. Among them, there were 3 tall and imposing figures standing on the highest viewing platform. At the same time, they exuded waves of terrifying aura that were full of oppressive force. In the face of this powerful oppressive force, everyone present looked solemn and respectful. The people on the viewing platform were the Li family patriarch Li Zinan, the Wu family patriarch Wu Tianxing, and the City Lord's mansion master Yun Ao, who belonged to the Sword sect. The 3 of them were known as the 3 giants of Taishan City, and were also martial king realm experts. Among them, Li Zinan and Wu Tianxing were both LV8 martial king realm experts. As for the City Lord's mansion master Yun Ao, he was a LV9 martial king realm expert. His strength was even stronger. Brother Wu, Brother Yun, almost everyone is here. It's time to start, Li Zinan said as he looked around. At the same time, he glanced at the 2 people beside him. Okay. Wu Tianxing was silent. His old face was still tense. It seemed that he did not get along with Li Zinan. On the other hand, Yun Ao, who was in the middle, nodded slightly, indicating that he had no objections. I announce that the City Lord's Mansion competition will now begin. Seeing this scene, the few judges, who had been waiting at the side of the martial arts arena since long ago, also understood tacitly. One of the judges stepped forward and shouted, in front of the Li family team, "It's finally begun." Seeing that the competition had finally begun, Li rubbed his hands together. His eyes fell on the Wu family team not far away. His eyes were burning with fighting spirit, as if he could not wait to rush up and fight with them. The City Lord's Mansion competition was a rotating system. The losers were eliminated in one round, while the winners could continue to challenge and could only rest for 30 minutes. As for the number of people, each force could send at most 5 young geniuses. The first round, Wu Tong versus Li Fu. Soon, the judge announced the opponents of the first round. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a young warrior from the Wu family also leaped onto the stage. His gaze swept across the surroundings, and then he hooked his index finger at a Li family junior below the stage. His actions were full of provocation. It seemed to be Wu Tong. Is this kid pretending? Seeing this scene, the crowd was shocked. As for some of the Li family juniors, their faces turned ugly as if they had been provoked. Kid, don't be too arrogant. I'll teach you how to behave in a moment. In the next moment, a Li clan junior leaped up and similarly arrived on the martial arena. His gloomy face was like a piece of charcoal. Your Li Fu? A mere level 6 martial spirit realm cultivation is nothing much. Seeing the newcomer, the corners of the young martial artist named Wu Tong's mouth curled up, still revealing a trace of disdain. His cultivation was at level 7 martial spirit realm, which was a level higher than Li Fu's. If Li Fu did not have any trump cards, there was a high chance that he would be defeated. Therefore, Wu Tong was very confident in this battle. He wanted to help the Wu family win the City Lord's Mansion competition. Chapter 6:16. How arrogant! Li Fu's anger rose when he heard Wu Tong's arrogant words. He roared and dashed toward Wu Tong. Swish! Swish! Strands of yuan li gushed out from each of his palms. Then, they transformed into 2 bright blue magic balls that fell directly around Wu Tong. Twin dragons playing with pearls. Li Fu circulated the elemental energy in his body to the maximum. He seemed to have used his killer move right from the start, not intending to hold back. Good! Wu Tong laughed when he saw Li Fu's furious attack. A hint of viciousness flashed across his face. Break! Bang bang! Rumble! He stretched out his left hand, and countless strands of yuan li condensed into one. Then, it turned into an incomparably sturdy and tall barrier. Immediately, it blocked the 2 blue magic balls that were flying toward him, causing a series of rumbling sound. The light of the magic balls dimmed and then collapsed. At this moment, Wu Tong was completely unharmed. What? Li Fu wasn't the only one who was stunned. The spectators were stunned as well. After all, there was only a difference of 1 level between them. Logically speaking, the difference in strength shouldn't be so great. Li Fu's all-out attack didn't even injure Wu Tong in the slightest. It was truly surprising. Moreover, Li Fu's twin dragons playing with pearls was no ordinary martial art. Its power was comparable to a grade 8 martial art. Impossible. His cultivation is only slightly higher than mine. How can twin dragons playing with pearls be ineffective against him? On the other side of the arena, Li Fu quickly retreated and landed in a corner. He looked at Wu Tong with a hint of surprise in his eyes. It seemed that Wu Tong had other trump cards in addition to his cultivation. It's over. Just as Li Fu was thinking about his next move, Wu Tong's cold voice came from the side. Whoosh! Whoosh! A gust of wind whizzed past as a figure appeared behind Li Fu. At the same time, a heavy palm landed on Li Fu's back, giving him no time to react. The force of the blow was as fast as lightning. Bang! Li Fu felt an enormous force coming from his back. His face turned green and red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying out of the ring. Poochie! Li Fu crawled up from the ground in a sorry state. The next moment, he spat out another mouthful of blood. A few of his teeth had fallen out, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. As a LV6 martial spirit realm martial artist, he could not accept the fact that he had been defeated by Wu Tong with a single palm strike. "Thanks for letting me win," Wu Tong said coldly as he glanced at the unwilling Li Fu. He then left the battle arena in a flash and headed toward the Wu clan's team. Although this battle seemed clean and tidy, only he himself knew that in order to defeat Li Fu, he had exhausted a lot of Yuan Qi and urgently needed to rest and recuperate. Wu Tong had used up about 80% of the Yuan power in his Dantian to unleash an ordinary palm strike. Its power was close to that of an expert at the 8th level of the martial spirit realm. It's a pity that Li Fu lost. I thought it would be a good fight, but I didn't expect it to end so quickly. Now that the Wu clan has won the first round, it's up to the City Lord's mansion and the Li clan to get back at them. Don't worry. That monster Yun Tianqing hasn't made his move yet. With his strength, I'm afraid that even if Wu Yang and Li Li fought together, they wouldn't be his match. As the first battle ended, the spectators in the battle arena began to discuss animatedly. The atmosphere gradually reached a climax. In front of the Li clan's team. "Li Fu, you're too useless. You were defeated by Wu Tong with a single palm strike." When Li Fu returned to the team, Li Li crossed his arms in dissatisfaction. After all, Li Fu represented the Li clan of Taishan City. Now that he had been defeated by the Wu clan, it was a great loss of face. "Young clan leader, we were incompetent. I'm sorry." Faced with Li Li's reprimand, Li Fu, whose aura was somewhat weak, smiled bitterly. He could not help but feel dejected. After all, he had lost. No matter how he tried to explain, it would just be an excuse. Actually, it's not all his fault. Although Wu Tong's cultivation is only at the 7th level of the martial spirit realm, he's not simple. Fei Ren's indifferent voice came from the side. "Oh? Brother Fei, what do you see?" Li Li also turned his head and looked at Fei Ren. His tone was surprised. In fact, he also felt a little strange. Although Li Fu's cultivation was not as high as Wu Tong's and was one level lower, he should not have lost so miserably. This battle was simply a one-sided suppression by Wu Tong. If I'm not wrong, that palm strike contained the power of the Wei, and more than one kind. Fei Ren nodded and explained. "More than one kind of power of the Wei? I see." Hearing this, Li Li was stunned at first, then he suddenly understood. If Wu Tong had mastered 2 kinds of power of the Wei, plus his own cultivation advantage, then Li Fu's defeat was inevitable. There was nothing surprising about it. The Way of the Earth and the Way of the Wind. Although these two are the most common Way of the Wei and are derived from the 5 elements, to be able to master 2 kinds of Wei at the same time and to reach the lesser mastery realm, this person's strength is not bad, Fei Ren said unhurriedly. With his present strength realm, he naturally saw through Wu Tong's background with one glance. Previously on the arena, Wu Tong used the power of the Way of the Earth to block Li Fu's twin dragons playing with a pearl, and then used the power of the Way of the Wind to use a full-strength palm strike to heavily injure Li Fu. Li Fu was already weaker than Wu Tong in terms of cultivation, so he was naturally no match for Wu Tong, who had used all his trump cards. Damn it! On the side, Li Fu lowered his head in shame. Other than shock, there was also a deep sense of unwillingness in his eyes. Compared to Wu Tong, he had only comprehended the power of the Way of the Wei and had not advanced it into a Way of the Wei. Moreover, there was a gap of 1 level in cultivation. Therefore, he was naturally no match for Wu Tong. I see, no wonder this little bastard is so arrogant. But a mere lesser mastery realm way can't do anything to me. My only target is that guy Wu Yang. Hearing this, Li Li crossed his arms in front of his chest and nodded thoughtfully. You're right, these are just small fries. Fei Ren also grinned. In his heart, he was very clear that the other party was not being arrogant. Although Wu Tong's strength was not weak, Li Li's strength was even stronger. In the entire Wu family team, perhaps only Wu Yang could stop him. City Lord's office, the leader of the 3 major forces of Taishan City, one of the 18 cities of the Sword Sect. Let me see how strong your foundation is. Licking his dry lips, Fei Ren's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Unlike Li Li, Fei Ren's target was not the Wu family, but the team of the City Lord's office on the other side. They had also sent 5 young geniuses to participate in this competition, and the strongest among them was the son of the City Lord, Yun Ao. The disciple of the Sword Sect, known as the number 1 genius of the City Lord's office, Yun Tianqing. Chapter 6:17. While Fei Ren was thinking, the next round of the competition began one after another. There were 2 young geniuses, a man and a woman. The difference in their cultivation levels was not great. They were both around the 7th level of the martial spirit realm. One of them was from the Wu family, and the other young woman was from the Sword Sect. In Taishan City, almost everyone knew the relationship between the City Lord's mansion and the Sword Sect. Taishan City, where the City Lord's mansion was located, was also one of the 18 cities of the Sword Sect. Therefore, the strength of this young woman from the Sword Sect could not be underestimated. She was definitely not as simple as an ordinary 7th-level martial spirit realm cultivator. In the arena, the atmosphere was fiery. The young woman stood slender and elegant. She wore a white robe and held a long sword in her hand. Her handsome face revealed traces of heroic spirit. Opposite her stood a thin disciple of the Wu family. He seemed to be her opponent. It's Fang Bailu. It's finally her turn. Looking at the white-robed woman who was full of heroic spirit in the arena, Li Li crossed his arms and teased. His eyes revealed a trace of playfulness. Her strength should be slightly stronger than that Wu Tong. Fei Ren's gaze also fell on the white-robed woman named Fang Bailu. He nodded. He sensed an extraordinary sword aura from her body. The disciples of the Sword Sect lived up to their reputation. After all, in the northern continent, the Sword Sect was also one of the third-grade forces. They had a vast territory of 18 cities, and were known as the 18 cities of the Sword Sect. Therefore, the disciples of the Sword Sect were naturally not weak. Li Li, it seems that you're quite interested in this Fang Bailu? Don't tell me you. Noticing the subtle change in Li Li's expression, Fei Ren immediately grinned and joked. With his status as the young master of the Li family, if he could marry a disciple of the Sword Sect, it would be considered a match. It was human nature. However, to Fei Ren's surprise, Li Li shook his head and said with a smile, "Brother Fei, you've misunderstood. It's not that I'm interested in this girl, it's someone else." As his voice faded, the other party glanced at Wu Yang, who was standing nearby, with a mocking smile on his face. He wasn't interested in the disciple of the Sword Sect, Fang Bailu, but the young master of the Wu clan, Wu Yang, was different. He'd been madly pursuing Fang Bailu recently, and Chen Shi's intention was to defeat Wu Yang before Fang Bailu and make Wu Yang lose all face. Being defeated by his former enemy in front of the woman he liked was definitely a huge blow. I see. After knowing what had happened, Fei Ren smiled helplessly and shrugged. He had to admit that the other party's imagination was indeed impressive. In the arena, you are no match for me. Fang Bailu said coldly as she glanced indifferently at the Wu family disciple. Her tone was filled with arrogance. Although her opponent's cultivation was similar to hers, she was 90% confident that she could defeat this Wu family disciple in 3 moves. As a disciple of the sword sect, her sword technique had already been cultivated to the point of perfection. At the same time, she was second only to Yun Tianqing among the younger generation of the city governor's estate. "Miss Fang, aren't you being too confident?" Faced with Fang Bailu's threat, the Wu family disciple's expression turned ugly as he spoke angrily. After all, he was at the 7th level of the martial spirit realm and a genius of the 4th rank Wu clan. If he was persuaded to retreat by a single sentence, he would no longer have the face to stay in the Jianghu if news of this spread. "Take this." Stomping his foot on the ground, the Wu family disciple also attacked. A pair of black maces had appeared in his hands at some point, and he immediately smashed them towards Fang Bailu's chest. He didn't have any intention of showing any mercy to her. Swoosh! Swoosh! The black truncheons stirred up the wind. Mixed with surging origin energy, their destructive power was astonishing. It seemed that the Wu family disciple had been angered by Fang Bailu's threat. This kid is so ruthless. Outside the arena, everyone's eyelids twitched. If this attack hit, at least a few ribs would be broken. In front of the Wu clan's team. "This idiot. If he dares to hurt Bailu, even if I win in the end, I won't let him go." Wu Yang's face was also livid. He clenched his fists tightly and looked as if he was about to rush up and stop Fang Bailu. After all, almost everyone in Taishan City knew that he liked Fang Bailu, a disciple of the sword sect. "Young clan leader, don't panic. Miss Fang is a disciple of the sword sect. It won't be that easy." Wu Tong smiled bitterly. However, before he could finish, a loud rumble suddenly came from the side. Boom! Before anyone could see what had happened, the Wu family disciple was sent flying backward. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell outside the arena like a dead pig. At this moment, his eyes were white and his breath was weak. Even the black truncheons in his hands had fallen to the side. One move to kill. Compared to the previous battle between Wu Tong and Li Fu, Fang Bailu's battle was more clean and decisive. She only used one move in the entire battle. Among the young geniuses present, except for Yun Tianqing of the City Lord's office, Wu Yang of the Wu family, Li Li and Fei Ren, the others didn't even see their opponent's movements clearly before the outcome was revealed. Damn, is this Fang Bailu's true strength? I'm afraid this woman is no weaker than any expert of LV8 martial spirit realm. A Li family disciple was shocked. Just like everyone else, he only saw Fang Bailu's figure flash and dodge the Wu family disciple's attack. The next moment, the Wu family disciple spat out blood and fell outside the arena. Fang Bailu didn't even use her long sword. It was enough to show the huge gap in strength between the two sides. You can't even withstand a single blow. Ignoring the unconscious Wu family disciple outside the arena, Fang Bailu's red lips parted slightly. Then, she gently turned around and left the arena. She returned to the City Lord's office team, her figure cold and arrogant. "Well done, Bailu." As soon as she returned to the team, a hearty man's laughter came from the side. The next moment, a young man wearing a cloud robe and a jade hairpin stepped forward. There was also a green sword hanging from his waist. He seemed to be a disciple of the sword faction of the City Lord's office, just like Fang Bailu. "Senior brother Yun, you flatter us. Compared to your strength, we're just mediocre." Looking at the smiling young man in front of her, Fang Bailu nodded slightly to show her respect. He was none other than the #1 genius of the City Lord's office, the son of Yun Ao Yun Tianqing. Although her strength was extraordinary and her attainments in swordsmanship were exquisite, she was much weaker than Yun Tianqing in front of her. Although Fang Bailu was usually arrogant and cold, she knew her own limits on this point. According to some rumors in Taishan City, Yun Tianqing seemed to have stepped into the martial king realm half a year ago. His strength was unfathomable. Even if all the remaining disciples of the sword faction worked together, they might not be a match for Yun Tianqing. Chapter 6:18. At this time, the battle in the arena was still ongoing. Following that, a few other young geniuses from the three major powers stepped forward to compete. However, their strength was only so, and they were not as good as Wu Tong, Fang Bailu, and the others. This caused Fei Ren, who was watching from the side, to feel somewhat sleepy. With his current strength, these people's fights were like children's play in his eyes. There was nothing to watch at all. After a while, half of the City Lord's Mansion competition was over, and only 5 or 6 of the 15 participants were left. Among them, except for Wu Yang from the Wu family, Yun Tianqing, Fang Bailu, Li Li, and Fei Ren from the City Lord's Mansion, the rest of the young geniuses were all eliminated. As for the rankings of the three major forces in this City Lord's Mansion competition, the City Lord's Mansion was in first place with a total of 5 victories, while the Wu family was in second place with 3 victories, and the Li family was in last place. They only had 2 victories. Moreover, these 2 victories were won by Li Li and Fei Ren respectively. The other 3 juniors of the Li family, including Li Fu, were all defeated and left the arena. In the spectator stand, Wu Tianqing's old face trembled slightly, and then he said in a mocking tone, "Li Zinan, it seems that the Li family is in last place again in this City Lord's Mansion competition. Although the Wu family and the Li family were both fourth-rank families and one of the 3 major forces in Taishan City, they were secretly at odds with each other and had been competing with each other for many years. Therefore, when he saw that the Li family's team was not doing well, he mocked them mercilessly. Brother Wu, I'm afraid it's too early for you to say that. I'm afraid that when the time comes, you will be slapped in the face, and the result will be unacceptable." However, in the face of Wu Tianqing's provocation, Li Zinan was not angry, which was rare. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he mocked back. Although Li Li's strength was not enough to defeat Wu Yang, this City Lord's Mansion competition was different from the past. They still had Fei Ren, who was a powerful external aid. With Fei Ren's strength, even if he was defeated by Yun Tianqing, he would be able to beat Wu Yang, the young master of the Wu family. The Li family would not be in last place and could save their last shred of dignity. In addition, looking at all the cultivators present, except for him and Li Li, no one knew about Fei Ren's identity and true strength. Right now, the City Lord's Mansion Grand Competition hasn't ended yet. Both of you should continue watching. At the side, seeing the 2 of them bickering again, Yun Ao smiled faintly and tried to smooth things over. This Li Zinan guy, where did his confidence come from? Could it be that Li Li's cultivation base has broken through again? Although he seemed to be trying to persuade the 2 of them, he was secretly glancing at Li Zinan from the corner of his eyes. His face was slightly surprised. "No, it's that kid." Yun Ao's gaze turned and stopped at Fei Ren, who was standing in front of the Li family's team. As the mansion master of the City Lord's Mansion and one of the Sword Sect's elders, Yun Ao was very experienced. He could tell that Fei Ren was not weak at all. Although Fei Ren seemed to be able to suppress his aura on the surface, his origin energy cultivation had already reached the 10th level of the Martial Spirit Realm. LV10 Martial Spirit Realm. His strength is second only to Tianqing, and he's only in his early 20s. This kid shouldn't be from around Taishan City. Could it be that he's also a genius from a large sect or family? The younger generation will surpass us in time. Taking a deep breath, Yun Ao pondered for a moment before a trace of admiration appeared in his eyes. Although Fei Ren was not a disciple of the Sword Sect, his talent and strength had already won his appreciation. Next up is the second round of the City Lord's Mansion Grand Competition. You are free to challenge. At this time, the referee at the side of the arena spoke again. Free to challenge? Let's get this over with quickly. Feiren reached out and touched his chin. Brother Fei, let me go first for this round. However, just as he was about to make a move, Li Li stepped forward and blocked him behind him. Li Li, are you going to fight? Seeing Li Li's action, Feiren was slightly surprised. At this time, the grand competition of the City Lord's mansion had already reached the second round. The opponents on the field, whether it was Yun Tianqing from the City Lord's mansion, Fang Bailu, or Wu Yang from the Wu family, were not ordinary people. With Li Li's strength, it was still difficult for him to fight against these people. At present, the Li family only had 2 victories and was ranked at the bottom. Therefore, Feiren planned to personally help the Li family win a few rounds and then challenge Yun Tianqing from the City Lord's mansion. He wanted to take first place and get the final reward. Brother Fei, I'll help you force Wu Yang to use his trump card first. As long as we can defeat him, it doesn't matter if the Li family is ranked at the bottom. Li Li smiled. Are you really going to fight? Feiren asked again. After all, Wu Yang's cultivation was at LV9 Martial Spirit Realm, and he had the advantage of a small realm. However, Li Li seemed to have made up his mind and was determined to fight with his opponent, so he nodded again. Okay then, be careful. That guy is not weak. He seems to be good at fist techniques. Seeing the determination on Li Li's face, Feiren did not say anything else. Then, he shrugged and reminded him. Brother Fei, don't worry. That guy is my old rival. Of course I know that. After saying that, Li Li leaped onto the arena in the next moment. Then, he hooked his index finger at Wu Yang, who was at the front of the Wu family's team on the other side. It was full of provocation. Wu Yang, do you dare to fight me? Why wouldn't I? In the face of Li Li's invitation, Wu Yang's face froze for a moment. Then, he laughed out loud and also leaped into the air and landed on the arena. Li Li, you asked for it. See if I don't cripple you. Slowly removing the white bandages around his hands, Wu Yang's slightly tanned face revealed a trace of ruthlessness and viciousness as he sneered. The Wu family and the Li family had a grudge for many years, and he and Li Li were old rivals. Therefore, he naturally would not show mercy to Li Li. If it were not for the fact that Li Zinan was present, Wu Yang even wanted to kill Li Li directly instead of just crippling him. Wu, I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Die. Li Li also snorted coldly. In the next moment, he also attacked violently. His body rushed out like a spring. Then, he lifted his leg and swept it towards Wu Yang's head. Rolling origin energy mixed with physical strength made the power of this kick like a fierce tiger coming down the mountain. It was ferocious. Compared to Wu Yang, who was good at fist techniques, Li Li was better at leg technique. Moreover, it was the shadowless kick that was as swift as the wind. Bang! Swish! The fist and leg collided. Wu Yang's left fist was in front of his body, barely blocking the opponent's kick. At the same time, his right fist blasted out again, aiming at the opponent's chest. It was very sneaky. After all, if the opponent continued to attack, he would have to take the power of his punch head-on. Scram! Also aware of Wu Yang's intention, Li Li also hurriedly retracted his right foot. At the same time, his left foot fiercely kicked at the opponent's fist. With the help of this impact, his body fell to the back of the arena. These two people, one using fists and one using legs, they are indeed old enemies. On the side, looking at Li Li and Wu Yang who were fighting fiercely in the arena, Feiren also touched his nose with a sigh. Chapter 619. Boom! There was another explosion in the arena. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the next moment, Li Li and Wu Yang both retreated. It seemed that they were on par again. This guy's strength has increased again, Feeling the soreness and pain in his legs, Li Li's face turned solemn. He then used his origin energy to suppress the discomfort. On the surface, it seemed that he was on par with Wu Yang and neither of them could do anything to the other. However, Li Li knew very well that Wu Yang had not used his full strength, but he had already used his full strength. Even so, the leg attack that he was good at still could not break through Wu Yang's defense. At the same time, he was almost injured by Wu Yang's extremely cold fist attack. If it was not for his solid cultivation, Li Li's legs would not be as simple as soreness and pain after this fierce battle. Instead, his bones would be broken and he might even be crippled. Warm-up is over. It seems that you don't have any other trump cards. Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Wu Yang also raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a ruthless smile. It seemed that he was finally going to use his full strength. King of Flame Fist. With a loud roar, Wu Yang also used all of his Yuan power in the next moment. Rolling Yuan power surged forward like a heat wave, then turned into an incomparably huge fiery red fist shadow. On the fist shadow, there were wisps of fire snakes faintly appearing. It seemed to be a powerful high-grade martial art. Earth rank martial art. At this moment, seeing Wu Yang use his killing move, the spectators were shocked and exclaimed in a low voice. With the cultivation of LV9 martial spirit realm and the terrifying power of the earth rank martial art, Li Li, who was only at LV8 martial spirit realm, could not resist the power of this fist. Oh no! At this moment, facing the incoming fiery red fist shadow, Li Li's face also changed greatly. His opponent's fist made him feel the threat of death, and this feeling was very strong. Bang! Rumble! Li Li circulated the protective Yuan power around his body to the limit. Before he could regain his senses, his chest was ruthlessly smashed by the fiery red fist shadow, emitting a loud muffled sound. In an instant, his robe was torn and blood splattered. In the next moment, Li Li spat out a mouthful of blood and fell outside the arena. His aura suddenly dropped to the lowest. It's a pity that my strength is still a little lacking. Seeing this, Fei Ren also shook his head helplessly, as if he had already expected Li Li to lose. From the very beginning, he could tell that Wu Yang was not weak. That was why he wanted to personally take action. However, he could not win against Li Li's stubborn temper. Li Zinan, it looks like our Wu clan is still superior. Ha! On the viewing platform, when Wu Tianxing saw Li Li vomit blood and retreat in defeat, he laughed heartily on the spot. It seemed that he was finally unable to suppress the joy in his heart. His eyes were filled with ridicule as he looked at Li Zinan. After all, their Wu clan had suppressed the Li clan in the City Lord's estate competition. After Li Li's crushing defeat, the only person left in the Li clan's team was the nameless Fei Ren. In Wu Tianxing's opinion, although Fei Ren had some strength and was lucky enough to enter the second round, he was definitely not Wu Yang's opponent. Old dog Wu, you better remember this. This matter is not over yet. Li Zinan also glared fiercely at the complacent Wu Tianxing. The next moment, his figure flashed and disappeared from the spectator's stand. Swoosh! Looking at the extremely weak Li Li, Li Zinan's face was filled with worry. He then took out a few high-grade healing pills from his spirit ring and fed them to Li Li. Little Li, are you all right? Li Li was not only the young master of the Li clan, but also his eldest son. If anything happened to Li Li, not only would Li Zinan's mentality be greatly affected, it would also be a great loss for the Li clan. After all, in order to cultivate a young genius like Li Li, who was at the 8th level of the martial spirit realm, the Li clan could be said to have spent a lot of cultivation resources. Cough cough cough, father, I'm fine. It's just a few broken ribs. It's not a big deal. Glancing at Li Zinan in front of him, Li Li coughed out a few more mouthfuls of blood and laughed dryly. Although he barely kept his life, His ribs were broken and his meridians were injured. He was basically unable to move at the moment. "You brat!" Seeing that Li Li was still calm, Li Zinan's brows furrowed. Just as he was about to say something, Fei Ren's voice came from the side. "Senior Li, give him a few pills. His injuries will be healed in less than 3 days." As his voice fell, a jade bottle shot into Li Zinan's arms. In the arena, Wu Yang's figure stood quietly. He also took out a few pills and swallowed them. Although the King of Flame Fist consumed a lot of his Yuan power, after swallowing a few grade 7 pills, the Yuan power consumed could be quickly recovered. The people of the Li clan are only SOSO. Glancing at the dying Li Li outside the arena, a trace of disdain hung on the corner of Wu Yang's mouth. Although his strength was on par with Li Li back then, after a period of bitter cultivation, his strength was no longer the same as before. His mastery of the earth rank martial art, King of Flame Fist, had also become more and more skilled, reaching the perfection stage. Therefore, Li Li, who was only at the 8th level of the martial spirit realm, was naturally not his match. In order to defeat Li Li, he had only used 80% of his strength. "Bai Lu, if my next opponent is you, I can take the initiative to admit defeat." As if he had thought of something, Wu Yang turned his head to look at the City Lord Mansion's team. His gaze finally fell on the tall Fang Bai Lu and he grinned. No need. However, in the face of his eagerness, Fang Bai Lu coldly rejected him. Seeing this scene, Wu Yang's face also froze. He was vaguely embarrassed and his fists could not help but quietly clench. Just as he was in a daze, in the next moment, he saw a figure cut through the sky and slowly landed on the arena. The person who came was wearing a gray robe and had a delicate face. It was Fei Ren, who had not been eliminated in the Li clan's team. "In the next round, I will be your opponent," Fei Ren said indifferently, his eyes still calm. "Who are you?" "Kid, with your strength, you are not qualified to be my opponent." Wu Yang turned his gaze and looked at Fei Ren opposite him. In the next moment, Wu Yang said coldly, his tone full of disdain. The other party seemed to be an external aid invited by the Li clan. In the previous battle, he had also defeated a junior of the Wu clan. However, he did not take Fei Ren seriously. In Wu Yang's opinion, Fei Ren's strength was at most similar to Li Li's and was not his match. "Now, do you have the qualifications too?" With a cold smile, Fei Ren also released a powerful origin energy aura. 10th level of the martial spirit realm. At this moment, sensing the powerful origin energy aura emanating from Fei Ren's body, the faces of everyone present changed drastically. Among them, Wu Yang's expression was solemn. After all, even a genius like Wu Yang was only at the 9th level of the martial spirit realm. Among the juniors of the 3 major forces present, perhaps only Yun Tianqing from the City Lord Mansion could contend with him. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.